Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. This is story about what if Kushina, agonized by deaths of her husband and baby, spends 12 years in Anbu only to find Naruto alive as root member. Part 1. Before I start, please do support for more amazing content and comments for part 2. Do consider to subscribe my channel and share my video to your friends and check out the description as well. Let's start the video. Nighttime at the Valley of End. A great battle had been eternally captured in form of statues of the two great rivals, Madara Uchiha and Senju Hashirama. On the top of the former's statue stood a dark figure, seemingly pondering upon something. This figure couldn't help but think aloud whilst adjusting his mask. Let the mischief begin, and with that it disappears. Soon the most ferocious roar known to mankind was heard, and crimson flames could be seen from afar. The night had been painted crimson with blood. A week later, Namake's compound. Kushina sat on her bed looking over Naruto, who was sleeping peacefully. She moved a little closer and took in his features. Naruto was fair-skinned, and had blonde hair. His chubby cheeks had been marred with 3 whisker-like birthmarks. He was a healthy baby and looked just like his father. She frowned thinking about what happened that night. How Minato had almost destroyed their firstborn's life by turning him into the Jinchuriki of the Ninetales. And all because of that bastard Madara. He was after all the one to rip Kyuubi out of her body and attack the village with his help. Flashback. In a hideout northeast of the village. The corridors of the building were very faintly lit. So faintly you could barely see anything but the torches that lit the room. The walls had an interesting design like snake scale. This made the corridors seem like a never-ending maze where one could get lost without effort. Here nothing but an ominous dead silence could be heard, the ominous aura justified by the dark liquid and the motionless bodies lying just below the torches. As we move forward and then take a left, we see a well-lit room with dead bodies of 2 medic nin lying on the floor just in front of a cot which laid in middle of the room. This hideout spoke of nothing but death and dead bodies. They hid themselves at the doorway to see what was happening. The flash disappeared to reveal Yondaime Hokage with his wife in bridal and placed him near their child. Kushina, now weak and exhausted due to stress from childbirth and having the mighty demon ripped out of her seal, tried to hold Naruto with as much strength as possible, trying to pacify him, trying to tell him that everything would be fine. Minato really wished time would stop here so that he could be here with his family, so that he could share the joy of Naruto's birth, so that he could forget about what was going on, so that he didn't have to say them one last goodbye. But alas, wishes were wishes and couldn't give a beggar his horse. He was broken out of his thoughts as a horrifying roar was heard. He sighed. The village needed him. He couldn't think about any sad thoughts now. He knew as he saw Kushina cooing to Naruto to make him stop crying that this wouldn't be very easy, but he had to do it. Gathering his courage, he spoke. Kushina, as he stared into her large violet eyes, he gulped all his guilt down his throat and continued, "Give Naruto to me. I'm going to seal the Kyuubi into him." Kushina's eyes widened. "No, you can't do that. I won't allow you to." She held Naruto closer. "I won't." "Kushina, please don't make it harder than it is. It has to be done. Kyuubi must be stopped." "But Kyuubi is too strong to be sealed by one person." "I know, that's why I must use the Shinigami's help." Kushina gasped in disbelief. "But that'll kill you." "Minato, let me reseal him in me. Doing so will destroy me and Kyuubi, and you and Naruto can live together, and Madara won't be able to lay his hand on Kyuubi like today." "No, I can't. Doing so will destroy the balance of the tailed beast." "Why, Minato?" Kushina mumbled. "Kushi-chan, why are you doing this to us? Don't we mean anything but weapons to you? Is that what you want, a weapon for Konoha? Don't you know the pain that a Jinchuriki has to go through? When you said you loved me, was it a lie?" Kushina tried to catch her breath after that outburst, her face as red as her hair, glaring daggers at the one she thought she could trust while holding on to her precious baby with all her remaining strength. Minato, on the other hand, was disheartened. He knew it wouldn't be easy to convince her. He knew he should have lied, made some excuse, or just nabbed their firstborn and be done with it, but he couldn't do that to them. No, he could never lie to his beloved, and it cost him her trust and possibly her love. He felt his heart clench upon realizing he would never be able to appease her. "Kushi-chan, I know you are upset, and I wish I could explain myself, but time is of essence." The wife showed no sign of calming down, but he continued, "I just want you to know that I am not doing this only because I am the Hokage, but also because I want to protect my family. The only thing I can say right now is that the future will bring disasters and our child will be the one to save the world." With that said, he pried his young one from his struggling mother, which wasn't hard considering her weakened state. After grabbing Naruto, he yellow flashed, leaving a struggling and crying Kushina. After some time, 2 injured Anbu officers brought a sleeping Naruto to her and reported Minato to be dead. End of flashback. She was thankful to them for bringing him back and thankful to have survived. No sooner had she received Naruto The news of Naruto becoming the Jinchuriki of Nine Tails had spread throughout the village like wildfire. People were already calling for death of the demon and vengeance for the loved ones. Kushina scoffed these stupid villagers couldn't tell the difference between a glass and the water in it, and Minato really believed that they would treat him as their hero, recalling Hiruzenjiji saying something about that man's last wish for Naruto to be seen as hero. That Madara will definitely pay, she promised herself as her eyes flashed with grim revolution and anger. As if sensing his mother's anger, Naruto woke up crying. Kushina pushed her anger aside to carry her child in her arms, swinging her arms while singing a lullaby. Naruto's mood lightened up as he giggled, his cerulean blue eyes flashing with joy at seeing his mother. When she thought about it, she was luckier than the other Jinchurikis. Unlike them, she was a secret weapon that a very few knew about, so she had a much normal life than other Jinchurikis were known by the people and were outright hated for existing by the very people they became weapons for in the first place. The least Minato could have done was keep his status a secret instead of showing him off to them before dying. For all she knew, they might have killed Naruto if it weren't for the Hokage. Kushina was thankful Hiruzen kept their location a secret and had guards around. Future will bring disasters, she had to wonder what Minato meant by it. Does it have to do with Madara? She shifted uncomfortably upon sensing a disturbance, but relaxed upon seeing the cause. Kushina Hokage-sama has summoned you to the council, said the cause, revealed to be a silver-haired Anbu with dog mask. Do I have to? Kushina asked in irritation. I know this is not something you look forward to, but we have to take care of this situation before it gets out of hand. Kushina just stood thinking in silence, although she didn't think the situation would change. For all she knew, it could get worse rather than better. She then looks over to her babe, sleeping peacefully on the bed. Then again, how does it matter as long as I'm there for him? Fine, Kakashi. She looks over to Naruto, contemplating something. She turned to Kakashi, who replied her unasked request. Don't worry, Nachan, he'll be safe here. Kushina smiled before taking on a serious face and leaving them alone. He strode towards the edge of the bed as he recalled the events of that night. Flashback. Wherever they looked, he saw terror. There were dead bodies everywhere, some were mutilated beyond description. The ground had been stained with blood, and where many ninjas could be seen carried their comrades, many of whom probably won't be able to fight ever again. When he got close to Kyuubi, he saw many shinobis trying to hold it back and failing miserably. Hold it back. Yandame-sama will be here, one cried out. Don't lose hope. Have faith in Yandame-sama, another cried out. Kakashi charged towards the beast. He made a few hand signs as a spark came to life from his hand. Lightning strike, he called out as a streak of said element flashed towards the beast. It struck but barely stung the demon, but Kakashi did not let it faze him. He moved towards the front line to help his comrades. Oh shit! The beast got bored of slashing and started breathing in and let out a beam, burning everything it touched. His victims were unable to even scream in pain, and the bystanders to be too fear-stricken to take an action. As the beam continued to eliminate all in path, Kakashi shook himself out of his fear and started concentrating chakra in his left eye. Everyone! Get behind me! The shinobi in line of destruction followed their young captain's order while praying that their captain had something up his sleeves. By the time they had gone behind the captain, Kakashi was done. He lifted his headband to reveal Mangekyo's Sharingan. Soon a portal appeared out of nowhere, sucking the hot beam of energy into abyss, giving enough time for his comrades to escape while holding it back. But for how long? The fox, losing its patience, decided to put more power to fire. With one more breath, it exhaled more flames upon Kakashi, who took it bravely, though he seemed to be losing his hold on the portal. But Kakashi only doubled his effort, the stretched pinwheel in his pinwheel-like pupils spinning so fast it could come off. Soon he lost his hold as the portal disappeared into where it came from. Time seemed to slow down as he watched the flames draw closer. At that moment he could hear nothing, not the cries of his comrades to move, not the menacing laughter of the demon, and not, if only he had, hear her come as a gentle hand grabbed his firm shoulder. His comrades had seen him fight valiantly before losing to Kyuubi, just when it seemed that their captain was toast. A girl about their captain's age, with purple tattoo on her cheeks, rushed towards him before replacing herself with him in his line of fate. Rin! That was when she turned around with a soft smile on face, a smile that helped him through his guilt, and a face he wouldn't be able to see except on pictures, before disappearing into that ominous light, which dimmed with her. No! Kakashi fell to his knees again, clutching his mask, wailing his heart out. The earth beneath him crumbled as he tried to stand up, but in vain as he fell on his knees due to exhaustion, tears in eyes and helplessness clenched in his fists. Kyuubi was irritated. It just couldn't understand just from where do so many pests come from. His question was answered when he laid his eyes on the village gate. So that was the source of these pests, and to end them all he had to do was blow the place out of the roof. Well, no problem. The fox started focusing a large amount of chakra at a point right in front of his nose. The onlookers watched in fearful awe as the chakra point grew to the size of a boulder, as its color morphed from red to violet with increase in density and intensity of chakra. The fear only increased as the beast swallowed it. Dead silence was heard as the humans were unaware yet fearful of the demon's plans. All had one question to which they hoped would never be answered: what is he up to? But wishes are wishes. They soon found the answer as the beast's eyes flashed before it dropped its lower jaw to reveal a beam of light heading straight for the heart of Konoha, chakra potent enough to obliterate the whole village. Konoha clenched her heart with helpless fear as the light of doom neared. Just as the light was reaching the Hokage monument, the light was gone as though it was never there. The people searched for their savior. Look over there, it's the Yondaime. And he was right. The Yondaime Hokage stood right at the top of the monument holding a three-pronged kunai up in the air with the right and a small figure in his left. Soon a cloud of smoke covered him, dispersing to reveal Gamabunta with Minato on top of his head. The Toad Boss leaped, cutting the distance between themselves and Kyuubi. Gamabunta drew out his sword as the fox snarled at them. Gamabunta-san, just hold him long enough, Yondaime ordered. Kid, do you really have to? I mean, you're just too young and your new family life was just about to start, Gamabunta lamented. I know, boss, Minato sighed, but things don't always go as planned. Just look out, Minato warned as Gamabunta raised his sword just in time to block the fox's claw that would certainly gouge his scarred eye. Minato, hurry, the toad urged. Minato nodded and started hand signs dead demon seal. Soon Minato saw the Shinigami behind him, to be seen only by the one who summons and the victim. Kyuubi tried to apply force but to no avail as he was pulled by the Shinigami's mighty arms into Naruto, and then sealed it later, taking Minato's soul, who collapsed, taking deep breaths. His vision getting blurry, holding his crying son with the strength left in him as Gamabunta laid him down to earth gently. He felt his people nearing him. With last of his strength he gave his final orders to his people: he is your hero, look well after him before life left him. People were stunned. They had lost many loved ones, were close to death, and had almost lost what was left of the village all in one night, all thanks to Kyuubi. As if that wasn't enough, their leader, the fourth Hokage, also the most powerful man known to the world, had died fighting the Kyuubi, and, according to these idiots, all he managed to do was turn the fox into a baby. They heard what he said but were too angry to understand or believe their leader. What the Hokage was holding in his hands was not a baby or their hero as he had put it. It was the cause of everyone's misery, but right now it was miserably weak and had to be destroyed before its strength was restored. They rushed forward, kunais in right, vengeance in left, all aimed at the child, but a stream of wind stopped them on their track. The cause of it revealed to be Hiruzen Sarutobi, the third Hokage, and two other Anbus. He whispers something into their ears before. Anger screamed, "What do you think you're doing?" Hiruzen released an intent of kill before booming right back, "Saving our hero and you from yourselves. Right now anger has clouded your minds, you don't understand what is happening. You must wait for some time, your questions will be answered." With that he disappeared in a swirl of leaves with the baby and Anbus. End of flashback. Later Kakashi found himself in the hospital where Sandaime-sama told him he had been unconscious for 3 days and that Rin and his sensei were truly dead, and his sensei's son was the new Jinchuriki of Kyuubi, and was under guard. He had immediately volunteered to be one of his guards. He had lost most of his family, and he'd be damned he let anything happen to what remained of it. He brushed Naruto's hair, appreciating the resemblance between him and Minato. "Sleep well, little bro, I'll not let anything happen to you," Kakashi promised, unaware that he would fail to keep it. Moonlight Bar, Red Light District. The bar had been filled with several visitors who drank their grief out at loss of their loved ones. Every once in a while a grim face would enter in hopes of finding solace, while a few people would carry out one of their drunk comrades supporting them. They were people who had lost despite Konoha's victory over Kyuubi, lost their precious ones to the said demon. After that news spread across the village, many people cried out for revenge and were searching for the demon, while others, although distraught, decided to wait for their Hokage to explain the situation. Soon a shadowy persona enters the bar, everything about his black overcoat covering his body up to ankles, the collar and the hood covering the lower and upper part of face respectively, rang nothing but suspicion, but people were too drunk to take notice. The figure moved towards an occupied table with the Jounin just starting his bouts. The figure pulls out a seat and sits. The Jounin, a well-built brunette with clean shave, stares at him but continues his bouts. "Oh, such a great tragedy it was," said the figure in a mournful voice. "Everyone knows, our losses were great. Some lost their friends, some their family. I lost my love, that is exactly why we are drinking," the Jounin said, voice modulating between annoyed and sorrowful. Yes, but drinking will not make you forget that event, either will it bring the dead ones to life. The Jounin got annoyed and banged the table, releasing a little killing intent, before hissing, "What are you getting at?" "Oh no, nothing at all," he replied frantically, waving both hands before relaxing. "I was just wondering what you would do if I told you where the demon was." A loud crash was heard. All the heads turned towards the source to see a man holding another man by the collar of his robe with the furniture they were using lay on the floor. Tell me, where is the demon hiding?" The man in question gazed around and seemed content at gaining this much attention before continuing. "Very well. Tell me, where is the demon hiding?" The man in question gazed around and seemed content at gaining this much attention before continuing. "Very well. Council." The whole room was silent. Members were waiting for Hokage to arrive, some whispering to each other, some to themselves. Complete silence fell as doors to the room flung open to reveal the Hokage followed by Uzumaki Kushina. Everyone stood as the old Kage made his way to his seat while Kushina Sunshine to her seat. They all took their seats after Sandame. Hiruzen turned his gaze from one end of the room to another. Though he showed confidence from outside, he was a little nervous from inside. After all, he knew what they were most eager to know. "You must all be aware of why you've been summoned. For those who don't, let me inform you that this meeting is about the Kyuubi incident on October 9th. Everyone in the room just nodded. Anyways, let's start with damage and cost repairs and then." Ahem, the council room interrupted. The council members look at each other when finally Hyuga Hayashi speaks on behalf of the council. "Forgive me for my interruption, but I and others believe there are more important things to be discussed about, like the boy." Sigh. "There goes my hope to keep it for the last," mourned Sarutobi. "And just what is there to decide about Naruto-chan?" "Well, he is a danger," voiced Fugaku. "He is not a danger or a demon or anything else you think about him." Kushina roared, "He is my son! And I will." "Kushina, please catch your breath and let me handle this." Kushina did as advised while many were recovering from the shock. Some of outburst other of this knowledge. They didn't ask for a proof because they knew how much their fourth and his wife loved each other. The boy being her child could be the only reason for her to defend him. Now, as Kushina-chan told you, Namake's Naruto is not a demon or any other entity but a normal human babe with extraordinary circumstances, thus we have nothing to discuss about him. He concluded, or at least tried to. But he has the demon sealed inside him. Even if he is a human, he is still a baby, and a demon like Kyuubi could corrupt even the noblest of men, pointed out Danzo, receiving a few nods. "Do I need to remind you who used which jutsu to seal the Kyuubi in him?" retorted Sarutobi. "There is no guarantee it won't break." "Minato gave his soul to Shinigami, for crying out loud. That should be more than enough for a guarantee." Sarutobi nearly yelled, all the while pondering, just what was his ex-teammate playing at? "Hokage. We don't know anything about Jinchurikis, but we do know other villages also have Jinchurikis, and in case of Kumo and Kiri, very well trained ones. The age must truly be getting to me if I didn't see that one coming." Sarutobi chided himself but humored Danzo. "What are you getting at?" "I request, demand, that Namake's Naruto be put in my care." "And why would we do that?" "I won't hide from you. I wish to train him to make up for the loss of Konoha's fire power." "And how will you do that? You just pointed out to me that we know nothing about Jinchurikis," the third inquired. "And how do you plan on training my baby?" Kushina added. "I don't want him now, Nameke-san. I will wait till he is old enough. By that time I should have enough information on the Jinchurikis of other nations." "That can be arranged with Jiraiya, the Toad Sage, as well, who being Konoha's spy master will also or may already have more information on Jinchurikis," Kushina suggested. "Like hell I'll let you get your hands on my boy." "But Kushina-san, Jiraiya-san has duties outside village, and even if he doesn't, it's doubtful that he'll agree, considering it will compromise his research," Danzo negotiated. "Actually, I will train him," a voice interrupted. All turned towards it to find a man with long spiky white hair standing at gate. "I heard what happened. I'm sorry I couldn't be here at time when you all needed me," Jiraiya apologized, dark eyes downcast. "We understand, Jiraiya-kun, and we hold nothing against you. Kyuubi's attack was a surprise anyway," the old Kage reassured his former student. Jiraiya nodded before continuing. "I will train him before his first Chunin exams and then take him on a 3-year training trip. Till then it will be up to Kushina-chan to mold him into a fine Chunin." "It's decided then. Naruto-kun will live with Kushina-chan, as every normal child ought to." The professor gave Danzo a sharp look. "And be trained by Jiraiya-kun when he's preparing for his first Chunin exams," Sarutobi concluded while sighing inwardly. "That went easier than I thought it'd go. The 1-week gap had not been for nothing after all." That week was required for people to calm down and, more importantly, to decide what to reveal and what not. Kushina had been ready to reveal her status as Kyuubi's ex-Jinchuriki, but Hiruzen refused, explaining that they'd also have to explain how Kyuubi was released and who was behind it, which in turn would put the village and the Uchi house at odds, unnecessarily if they were not involved with Madara, and alarm them if they were. Though he left the option open if situation called for it. He hoped Kushina would forgive Minato by now, but apparently Kushina was being stubborn for now. He knew she would let go. After all, how long can one stay mad at the dead? Anything else? Yes, we still have to discuss damage and costs of repairs. Hayashi pointed out, earning a lot of enemies if the glares signified anything. Apparently everyone except Hayashi minded staying in the council room. And no, while they want to discuss damage and cost repairs, fumed a certain old man. While Kushina and Jiraiya were glad that was over, something about Danzo's impassiveness, though it was normal, disturbed the Kage. Namike's compound. Situation is all under control, Kakashi reassured himself as he continued to watch over his sensei's home from the balcony of the room Naruto was asleep in. But this uneasy feeling never seemed to leave him. This uneasy feeling had saved him many times more than it had put him in an embarrassing situation. Must be the council meeting, he tried reassuring himself. After all, what could go wrong with tight security present? He hears the flush from behind, even in the toilet. However, a tag bomb sent everything down the flush. The bomb was way off the mark and barely made it to the backyard. The guarding team rushed outside to be met with the sight of a big and heavily drunk crowd calling for Naruto's death. They viciously barraged the defending team with hailing kunais and inflammable substances. The flying kunais and the assailants weren't a problem, but the number of them, that was the problem. Kakashi counted 62, 45 in plain sight and 17 hiding behind hedges to provide backup. 62 versus 18 weren't good odds. Inu Taishu. We can't defend ourselves like this, a hulky man behind a bull's mask called out. We will have to engage them directly, he suggested while hiding his team behind a mud wall, which wasn't looking too good. It was a solution, but they'd have to jump into the crowd. That shouldn't be needed, roared a brave soul behind the lion's mask. Before he jumped to the railing, clasped his fingers into a tiger seal as a dense ball of fire started forming, catching everyone's attention. Suddenly, without warning, he took a deep breath and released Phoenix breath on the crowd. The mob was surprised as the intense beam of heat flared towards them. Aqua geyser. Someone yelled before the rise of 4 geysers out of ground that blocked the path of shooting flames before the 2 vaporized into thick mist. So, they've got Jounins too, analyzed Kakashi as Lion started cursing. Damn. That wasn't good enough, but Kakashi didn't see a failure, he saw a good cover. ANBUs are the best when it comes to fighting blind. No, wait. Good job, Lion. Then pointed at several officers. You and you. Use the mist to your advantage and TK him down. Bull and Lion, stay behind and help me escort Naruto to Hokage-sama's office. Now. With that said, all but the above-mentioned jumped into the mist as screams began. The trio went into the room to find a crying Naruto, perhaps awakened by the explosion. They'd have to get out fast if the smoke entering the room was any indication of it. Not good. We'll have to get out before the house burns down. Lion stated the obvious. Kakashi nodded before giving them orders. Let's go. But before they could make it to the balcony, a mysteriously cloaked figure was blocking their way, stanced and ready for a fight. Sir, we can handle him. Please go ahead, Lion pleaded. That won't help you, my fair opponents, the figure spoke in a mechanically distorted voice, making it hard to determine gender or age. But if one went by his height, he had to be about Kakashi's age, if not younger. You see, I have surrounded this house with a barrier. He's right, there is a barrier around the mansion, but the seals required to deactivate them are in the living room, Kakashi observed with an active Sharingan and a still crying Naruto. Go ahead, sir. Like Lion said, we are enough for him? Bull insisted. Kakashi nodded and left for the living room. Bull and Lion prepared to face their new adversary, who seemed rather aloof towards them. They charged, zigzagging like 2 falcons at the same prey. Lion reached first with a cocked fist when suddenly his opponent's eyes flashed amber like a predator. With Kakashi. Kakashi was currently running through corridor towards the living room. He covered Naruto's face with one of his special masks to help his breathe in the burning mansion. That takes care of suffocation. Now I could have sworn the taps were running. Kakashi strains his Sharingan in search of water source but only finds empty pipelines. I could have sworn the pipes were running, must be that guy, but how did he do it so fast? He put that thought in the back of his mind as he reached the living room where the seal to breaking the barrier was put. He gently placed Naruto on the sofa in middle of the living room and tried pinpointing the seal. There, He rejoiced as his eye stopped at the biggest sofa in the room. He rushed towards it and bent trying to reach for the tag beneath the furniture. When it seemed he could not reach, he kicked the furniture off the floor, causing it to crash onto the burning walls. Kakashi wasted no time in dissolving the seal. He wiped the sweat, which he didn't even know was drenching him. He was just making high move towards his charge when he heard two cries of anguish followed by a loud crash. Guys! The sound was surely from the corridor he came from. His suspicions were proved true. A familiarly unwelcome figure made its way through the corridor with eyes literally flashing amber like fire, giving him the predator effect. Kakashi couldn't make out any other features. The seals on the foe's cloak gave him immunity from Sharingan. Just who is this person? Meanwhile, with Kushina sighed with relief. The meeting was finally over. The old perverts called her to the office to talk. Now she and Naruto could live in peace. Everyone in the village would come to know of Naruto's heritage and condition. She was aware that not everyone would accept Naruto, but no one would be able to harm him. Especially with me around. She tried reassuring herself, but an uneasy feeling had been troubling her. Hiruzen observed Kushina for a while, thinking what to and what not to say to her. He turned to his student and observed that he too had similar thoughts. The student and master made an eye contact before nodding to each other and approaching the redhead. Kushina, Jiraiya spoke, startling her out of her trance. We'd like to talk about a few things, unsure as to how forward his thoughts, but his sensei comes to his rescue, kind of. Kushina, we feel you should forgive Minato, Hiruzen said, without beating around the bush. Kushina wanted to give an angry reply, but Hiruzen continued, I know you are angry at Minato for putting you and Naruto in such a vulnerable condition, but you have to understand, Madara came without warning. He had no way and no time to prepare for what was about to happen. He did what he thought was his best option. He could have let me reseal the fox back in myself. That would have killed you. Intense silence prevailed between the two as their third felt the tension. Jiraiya noticed the confidence in his sensei's eyes. Perhaps the meeting booted his confidence. Hope it sticks with him for a long time. Jiraiya gathered some guts before speaking to his adoptive daughter-in-law, Kushina. I know you're upset that Minato left you and Naruto, but you must understand, he didn't take your suggestion because he loved you both and died in your stead to make you two lived, just as you were willing to. He could see her resolute ire dimming, though she stubbornly held on to it. It'll take some time, Spike, but don't fret in your grave, she'll come around. Now let's put this talk for some other time. Kushina, let me escort you to your home. I'm anxious to meet my grandson. As though something clicked in her, Kushina opens the window and launches to her home. Hey! Escort means something! Jiraiya screamed before following her suit. Hiruzen sighed. The meeting really boosted his morale but didn't help his old age. He really wished Jiraiya or Orochimaru would take over. Preferably Jiraiya, who despite his attempts, was not behaving suspicious. Kushina would be great if it weren't for her ill temper. Maybe Tsunade nay same problem as Kushina's, added with fear of blood. Oh. WTF. I'm doomed to be on this seat forever. Hiruzen sighed. The meeting really boosted his morale but didn't help his old age. He really wished Jiraiya or Orochimaru would take over. Preferably Jiraiya, who despite his attempts, was not behaving suspicious. Kushina would be great if it weren't for her ill temper. Maybe Tsunade, same problem as Kuhina's, added with fear of blood. Oh. WTF. I'm doomed to be on this seat forever. Outside the Namikaze compound. This is fucked, a common thought running among the Anbus fighting of the mob. The mob shouldn't be and wouldn't be tough to take care of if there weren't many jonins in here. But the mob had at least 30 of them, and was holding ground even while drunk. The rest of the mob had been defeated. Some smartly chose to flee, but most weren't sober enough for that. Hey Tiger! You think Captain got out already? Asked an Anbu with raccoon mask fighting back to back with one with Tiger. No idea, but I hope so because I don't want to stay here for longer than necessary. Tiger replied, blocking a vertical slash as Raccoon flings a fatal blow at Tiger's foe. A Jonin sneaks into Raccoon's guard ready to kill, but a kunai through his throat halts him. You need to be more careful than that, scolds a feminine voice, belonging to an Anbu with cat mask. Sorry. No time for that. She parries a slash to elbow and strikes the chest. Captain's taking long, he may need assistance. We better get over with this. Or they better get done with their business, Tiger joked. Yeah, that too. Inside the burning mansion with Kakashi. This person, just who is he? Kakashi asked himself. This person is obviously very strong to have defeated two Anbus at same time and also very cunning to have infiltrated and set a trap in the mansion. And if that barrier was anything to go by, he is really good at sealing. But how did he know Naruto's location? Why was he even here? Surely being a seal's master he should know about Jinchurikis himself. Did he come here for revenge, or did someone hire him? Or is he here for Sensei's scrolls? No, if that was the case he'd have left as silently as he came. He must be after Naruto. Kakashi decided to put his queries forward. Just who are you and what do you want? The stranger replied by taking a stance, a kunai in each hand and feet 2 feet apart. Fine. Two can play at that game, Kakashi exclaimed before drawing his father's blade White Fang with his right and taking a kenjutsu stance, blade pointing at his opponent. 5 huge blobs of ink rose up from the ground as the stranger sped through hand signs. Kakashi, being used to such sights in company of seals masters, went through swift hand signs and hit the floor with his hands. Slam, an arm with open palm rose out of the ground before slamming at the foe. The foe let go of the ink to dodge the palm that threatened to crush him. Finding him in midair and at a disadvantage, Kakashi fired a barrage of kunais at him, but the foe made a shadow clone which diverted him to a wall. The foe used the wall like a springboard to charge at the young Anbu. They eyed each other crimson, returning the glaring embers with a single glare. As soon as the flame flared, the two were at each other, meeting clang with clang. This game was interrupted by a burning bookshelf, the flame and smoke from it veiling one from another, giving them a moment to rest. But Kakashi was not for rest. He determined his adversary using his nose and released a bolt of spark at him. The foe saw it coming and dodged swiftly. Kakashi, determined to paralyze his opponent, sent sparks after sparks at him, but the foe moved like a phantom. The phantom, unexpectedly, jumped high in the air and was now descending with a drop fist for Kakashi. However, Kakashi moved out of the way, the figure still airborne. Kakashi charged his blade with lightning and cleaved the foe into two. Just when it seemed it was over, to Kakashi's surprise, his foe vanished into smoke. He turned around to see the foe holding Naruto. The foe held the wriggling and crying babe, keeping it from escaping. He stared at the babe, eyes blazing with victory, when to his surprise the babe transformed into a doll with explosive tags attached, but he let the seal on his sleeve absorb the explosion. White Fang. He saw Kakashi from the corner of his eye, charging at him with the blade pointing at him. Foolish, he said before releasing the energy absorbed in the sleeve towards Kakashi, who was unfazed by the attack. Just as soon as it touched the point of his blade, an even greater explosion rocked the burning living room and sent the foe crashing into the wall. The foe managed to stand on his feet, his clothes charred and torn. He reviewed the damage done and was relieved to find his bones intact. That was clever, but just when did Hatake create a clone? The foe drew out his brush, scribbling on himself. Of course. The same time I made mine. He recalled taking advantage of the smoke due to burning bookshelf to create his clone. Kakashi must have done the same and was swift in retrieving young Naruto. Hatake Kakashi, I was completely wrong about you. Seals glowed on his clothes as the clothes repaired themselves along with his injuries. Good thing I was prepared. Kakashi had almost made it to a balcony, and his Sharingan detected no seals. He was just near when suddenly the ground beneath him collapses, followed by the ceiling. With Kushina and Jiraiya. The two had been hasting towards the compound, jumping from rooftops to rooftops, the redhead more so than the pervert. Hey! Kushina! Slow down for me, Jiraiya pleaded. But the pleas barely reached her ears. She didn't know why, but an uneasy feeling kept her from slowing down. This feeling would settle down only if she'd see her baby, and she just knew it. Maybe I should use the yellow flash. Jiraiya became silent after he realized that something was bothering her, but decided to brood over his own concerns. How long will it take for her to forgive a dead man? Hiruzen had assured him that though Kushina hadn't completely forgiven Minato, her anger towards him was slowly but surely disappearing. He was yet to see that happening and prayed that her love for him overcame her anger. As they continued on their way, just then he noticed Kushina going through familiar hand gestures. Wait! But it was too late, as he saw a yellow flash spark towards their destiny, but then he got the shock of his life. Their destination was on fire. At the mansion. Kushina arrived to see the mansion burning. Naruto. The mob, seeing the Red Death, started fleeing. Kushina paid them no mind as she dashed towards the mansion only to see it crumble after an explosion. She stood there in shock. Naruto! She cried. The others were stunned. A few remnants from the mob started celebrating. Oh, they soon wished they never did, as soon they found their bodies being crushed by gravity times 100, courtesy of a bereaved mother. You bastards! I won't spare you! They turned into paste. The Anbus thought it was over, but I won't spare any of you. Kushina was going berserk, hitting everyone with her chakra chains. She was about to perform a jutsu on those caught when a hand struck the back of her neck, knocking her out. Jiraiya caught her unconscious body, then he turned to the Anbus. What are you waiting for? Go and search the debris, you nincompoops. There may be survivors. Jiraiya shouted, and I hope Naruto-kun is one of them. A brave Anbu took Kushina to the hospital while others began the search. They didn't wait for the smoke to clear out. 10 minutes had passed since the search begun. By now they found 2 dead bodies belonging to fellow Anbus, but no signs of Kakashi and Naruto yet. Everyone! I found them! An Anbu with falcon mask shouted, pointing to rubble of stones in front of him. Soon they dug them out. Kakashi was injured with a bleeding head but alive, but the baby was dead. The Anbus rushed Kakashi to the hospital while Jiraiya held the little blonde boy in his arms. The baby had died due to broken ribs if the blood from his mouth was an indicator. Jiraiya gently wiped the blood on his face. First Minato, and then Naruto. Tears started pouring out of his eyes. Oh God! How many plans I had made for my grandson, how many dreams Kushina and Minato had seen for him. Minato would be ashamed that the village he saved at cost of his son repaid him with death of his only child, and Kushina, she'll be broken beyond repair. He closed his eyes in complete sincerity. Oh God! Please let this be another nightmare. But when he opened his eyes, he found the light mass in his hands still dead. At the hospital with Kakashi, Cat and Falcon watched their senior officer lie unconscious on the bed with a bandage on his head. The window was open and there was cold wind blowing in. Cat moved to the window and closed it. Captain? Cat turned around to see Falcon help dogs sit properly. Falcon, Cat, how's Naruto? Kakashi asked. Sir, you should rest. Yugao. Cat sighed in reply, looking at Falcon, who nodded in reply. Sir, Namake's Naruto is no more. Yugao replied grimly. What? He died due to cracked ribs. Impossible. I was above Naruto. The rocks would have to hit him before crushing his ribs. There must be a mistake. Sir, the rocks did hit him. Falcon provided more. The forensic report confirmed both his identity and his cause of death. No, this can't be. Kakashi looked on verge of breakdown. The 2 onlookers tried not to slap themselves. In all the glory their captain earned as a copy ninja, they sometimes forgot that he was very young. They composed themselves as Kakashi turned his gaze at them. Where's Kushina? He asked. Captain, you need rest. I asked something. He interrupted Yugao angrily. In the room in front of us, but before Yugao could say anything, their captain was gone. This is going to be a long day, Falcon commented. As if it wasn't long enough already, Yugao replied. The 2 went in Kakashi's track. Room in the front. Kushina stared at the ceiling aimlessly. From where Jiraiya and Hiruzen stood, she looked like a dead body. Kushina had just learned of Naruto's death and also how he died. And also the murderers were none other than people of Konoha. Kushina, I know this is hard on you, but you need to move on sooner or later. Hiruzen spoke. Naruto would want that too. Shut up. Hiruzen was stunned. Kushina. She sat up on the bed and roared. I said shut up. Don't tell me what Minato or Naruto would want. Does anyone care what I wanted? I just wanted a happy family with Minato and Naruto, but Minato and you snatched all that away from me. Kushina stopped to catch her breath. Just then Kakashi rushed in. Kushina, are you okay? He ranted his concerns for her without noticing the intent in the air. Oh no, the other 2 thought. Within a second Kushina pinned Kakashi, choking him with both her arms. You traitor! How dare you! Didn't you promise to protect Naruto? I should never have trusted you. She spat on his face before rolling her eyes and falling unconscious. Jiraiya stood behind her with his hand raised. He sighed before lifting her and then laying her back on her bed. Then he turns to Kakashi, who looked like a complete mess. He didn't even wipe the spit on his face. Jiraiya sighed as he watched the young captain break down crying with his hands covering his face and lying on the floor. Jiraiya and Hiruzen help him up and give him a glass of water. Kakashi, don't take her words seriously, she is not thinking right. Jiraiya consoled. Jiraiya is right, she's been through a lot recently, and it will take time and our support to help her get over this tragedy. Hiruzen added. Kakashi merely nodded before moving towards the door. Kakashi, I want you and the officers protecting the mansion to report to my office, Hiruzen commanded. I want the description of all the people who participated in the mob. None will be spared. Kakashi paused before moving out. You think he'll be alright? Jiraiya asked. No. Jiraiya, you should probably postpone your departure. With all that has happened and is going to happen, it will be helpful if you'd stay. Jiraiya nodded in reply. We should leave Kushina alone, for now. With that said, they went to the office. Though neither wanted to admit it, they knew that everything was going down. Hokage's office. Hiruzen sighed, holding his head in frustration. One would blame it on the paperwork in front of him, but in truth it was the newspaper in front of him. It was hard to believe that it had only been a week since Naruto's death. Nothing could happen this week. He told the village about Naruto's heritage and got it through the people's head that he was the prison, not the prisoner. He also told them about his death. Needless to say, in general the people were upset, so upset that they were ready to go out on manhunt for those responsible. Upon investigation, much to everyone's disappointment, Hiruzen found that all culprits were ninjas of the leaf. Even those who were glad that Kyuubi was gone were upset that the ninjas could do something as dumb as killing a baby, none the less of their late hero. The culprits were found and executed. This news spread far and wide. Now enemy villages were making mockery of them, saying if the villagers can't trust their ninjas, then how can others? Kushina was still not over her son's death. She had been temporarily shifted to the Uchiha compound while her home was under reconstruction upon the request of her childhood friend and present Uchiha matriarch, Uchiha Mikoto. He had hoped that it would help Kushina, but he learned from Mikoto that she attempted to suicide. As soon as Tsunade arrived, after learning the sad news, she was staying over the Uchihas, much to their reluctance, to help Kushina. Kakashi was doing better, but something told him he'd eventually snap. That reminded, there is still one culprit on the run. The masked man was still on run with Jiraiya and Kakashi on his case. Surprisingly, it still wasn't clear who the masked man was. Seal's mastery of that level was rare throughout the world. His village was blessed with a handful, which was a lot as compared to other villages after the fall of Eddie. He snapped to reality as the door to his office swung open to reveal Jiraiya. Hiruzen excused his informality. At least he used the door for once. Make yourself comfortable, Jiraiya, invited the Hokage. Jiraiya did so and said, you may want to do the same, sensei, because what I'm about to tell you isn't very good. The old man sighed. Why can't things ever go alright? Then gestured Jiraiya to continue. Unknown location. It's raining like God decided to leave the shower on. Raindrops fall on the slant rooftops of poorly architectured buildings. Though each had electricity supply, the flats were unsightly. But the people were not bothered by this at all. These, the people of Amigakure, were used to this, for they had lived under worse conditions during Hanzo's tyrant reign. Under the reign of Hanzo of the Salamander there was nothing but chaos. The man literally invited wars to their homes and spread oppression and tyranny in the land like an epidemic. This went on for many years till at the end of the Third Shinobi War, Pain freed them by slaying Hanzo the Salamander, who was the former dictator of AIM and brought peace to their country. At the present he was making plans to bring peace to the world. They were eternally grateful to him, and so they'd help him in this mission in any way they can. Unknown to them, Pain watched them from the giant statue, which was at the topmost among the desolate towers. He sat at the edge of the tongue, his red hair lank and wet, covering his piercings on ear. His ears weren't the only organs pierced, the bridge of his nose, chin and his shoulders were also pierced. His black overcloak with red clouds covered his other features. But his most unique feature was his eyes. His eyes, purplish-gray, had ripples with no sclera. A portal opens behind him as a figure with same cloak jumps out. You took your time, Toby, but personally I think you should never have shown up. The redhead spoke. Now Nagato-san, there is nothing to be angry about. Toby gave a cheery reply. Nothing, except for the fact that you had Kyuubi in your hands and you lost him for your petty revenge. Nagato scolded. Yeah, sorry about that, but we can always recapture him. Pain dashed at him and lifted him by his collar. The Jinchuriki is dead. You may have jeopardized our plans. There's no telling where the Kyuubi is. He could be dead. First of all, let go of me. Toby smacks Pain's hand of him. Secondly, it's too early for our plans anyway. We have lots of time. So rather than arguing with me, it would be better to search for Kyuubi. We better do find him. It would do better for you, Uchiha. The Uchiha scoffed and replied before opening a portal and jumping in. Pain watched him jump in before continuing to watch his villagers. Paper flies over his head before forming into a woman with same cloak as Pain. She had blue hair and orange eyes. Her hair had a paper rose pinned to it. The woman puts her hand on Pain's shoulder, then asks, Nagato-kun, do you think we'll be able to find Kyuubi? Konan-chan, do you believe in me? Konan grabs his face and kisses him in reply. They break, then Konan, it won't matter if we find him or not, our dream will come true. With that said, they resume. Konoha Research Lab Area 44. The old Hokage stood shaken in his samurai-style armor. His guards weren't better off either. He didn't want to believe what he was seeing, but he couldn't deny it either. Most of Jiraiya's suspicions were true. Ah! Sensei! What a pleasant surprise! A menacing greeting came from behind. Hiruzen turned to meet the menace. Orochimaru Hiruzen brought himself in a stance with his staff ready to smite his student. Before that he had to ask something. What are saying, Jiraiya? I'm saying what I learned from the source. Hiruzen stands up and bangs his desk. The source must be lying. There's no way Orochimaru would be doing such things. Jiraiya sighs. I wish, Sensei, I wish, but I learned it from one of our missing jonins, and not just any. It was Hiro Aburame, the former vice captain of Reconnaissance Department who had been working on the case of missing Konoha Heights. He looked like, was a beetle human mutant when I found him, barely conscious. We were able to identify him with help of Inoichi-san, and what Inoichi saw was just terrible. People of all ages and streams of life cut up yet alive, crying in pain at mercy of Orochimaru. Hiruzen just sat silent, loud in depressing thoughts, trying his best to disbelieve, but as a Hokage he couldn't just ignore this. Sensei, you don't have to believe me, just check his lab out to satisfy everyone's doubt. Very well, is there anything else? He asked, hoping there wasn't. Sensei, Naruto, Orochimaru. Jiraiya tried. I see, you suspect Orochimaru could be the masked man. After all, he had a grudge against Minato and has yellow eyes. The old man sighed before getting up and ordering for investigation team. Orochimaru, was it you? Are you the one who killed Naruto? The snake in the bosom stood silent as though in shame, but like a real snake he smirked and replied, why yes, before unleashing wind blades on them. Hiruzen spun his staff, catching the winds. He lifted his swirling staff in air before swinging at Orochimaru as a disk of wind cut through air and tore his body into two. The body parts melt into mud, causing everyone to be on guard. They wait for the snake to slither into their presence, but... Be calm, the traitor has already left the village. Jiraiya came upon them with a few ANBUs behind. The ninjas sighed in relief. Hiruzen was still getting over this whole thing. Traitor, out of all the possible black sheep, I never thought my own student would be one of them. Did envy really cause him to stoop so low, or was he always like this? He felt a hand on his shoulder. Jiraiya, we may still be able to catch him. On it, Sensei. Jiraiya breathes in, as his eyelids turn red with red teardrops forming. He opens his eyes, to which look like a toad's, this way. Uchiha Kampuan guest room. The Japanese-style room was true to its purpose as a guest room. It was both comfortable and hospitable, not that Kushina bothered to appreciate it. She was currently cradling a stuffed toy that she had bought for her then still-to-be-born son. She was surprisingly frail, she lost some pounds, her skin was deathly pale and her eyes were dry, surrounded by dark circles. Her ramen lay cold on the table, untouched. And her door open. Makoto arrives at the scene with her babe sleeping in her arms. She sighs, breathes in before putting on a gentle smile. You know you need to eat to live, she continues despite no reply. You know, Naruto. Who are you to tell me what my family wanted or not wanted? You are not the one who lost her family, I am, so tell me what they wanted or not wanted after you lose your own. The babe cries at the sudden outburst as Makoto pacifies her child. She returns to Kushina. Are you done? Now let me continue. As I was going to say, before you woke Tsubaki-chan up, you know Hokage-sama finally identified the masked man who killed your son. Kushina froze up at that. Makoto continued anyway. It was Orochimaru. That traitor wanted revenge on Yondaime-sama. He also used civilians and fellow ninjas as science experiments. Hokage and Jiraiya tried catching him, but the snake gave them a slip before she could finish. Kushina was geared up and marching out of the room. Makoto watches her friend leave, not bothering to ask where she was going. At the same time, Tsunade shows up in her kimono, having returned from a hot bath, staring in the direction Kushina marched. Good day, Tsunade-san, you need something? Makoto asked with a smile not genuine. Where did she go? Tsunade asked. Oh, she went to meet Hokage-sama to interrogate him about Orochimaru. You told her about him. You know it's all good and well that you care about your friend, but motivating someone to live based on revenge isn't really advisable. At least it worked better than all that goody-goody they would have wanted you to move on routine. That routine is something she'll have to learn herself. For now, if the revenge routine forces her to live, then so be it. And that was my purpose, and I refused to fail. They stood still for some time before Tsunade narrowed her twitching brown eyes and said, You really are an Uchiha. The Uchiha turned her hawk-like black onyx eyes to meet the Senju's. When were you leaving again? Oh, I'll be staying for quite some time now. Young Tsubaki starts crying, and by some time I mean right after I wear my clothes and pack my bag. As if on cue, Tsubaki stops crying and stares at the Senju with her big onyx eyes. Sheesh, even the brats of rosy eyes don't like me. I can't read minds, but I know what you're thinking, the matriarch warned. Tsunade murmured something about people too smart for themselves and rushed to pack up. Konoha Research Lab Area 44. The old Hokage and a team of ANBUs were in middle of investigation. Right now they were trying to identify all victims of Orochimaru's project and reviewing his notes to identify his purpose. A yellow flash lights the room, disappearing to reveal a cold and furious Kushina. Hiruzen sighed, feeling the upcoming headache. He preferred when she was boiling with anger, that way you knew you could still appease her. You let the murderer get away, the redhead stated. We were about to catch him, but he unleashed a swarm of monster on us. Liar, Kushina hissed at the seemingly worst excuse she heard. I wish, Kushina, I wish, lamented the old man, but if wishes were horses, this lab wouldn't be filled with what were once humans. Kushina turned around and started leaving, but the old man dashes in front of her and asks, Where are you going? You people are obviously impotent. If you weren't, then the murderer wouldn't have gotten away. Yeah, I know how you feel, believe me I do, but going nuke won't help you. You, as wife of the late Yondaime Hokage and officially the last member of the Uzumaki clan, will be attracting hunter neens from Konoha and the other 4 major villages and their allies, plus Orochimaru can't be taken lightly. Facing no reaction from the redhead, he continued. But if you rejoin ANBU, I promise I will make you in charge of catching Orochimaru. Madara. Him too. You can even take help from ninjas of your choosing whenever you need, and the other villages will think thrice before attacking you since you're under our protection. He waits for Kushina's answer, hoping for a yes, but even if he got a no, he'd earnestly do anything to help her. Kushina stared at the aged man, trying to know what he was thinking, trying to figure whether she could trust him. After a few moments she replies, Not sure about that protection part, but I'll take your offer, knowing information gathering here is one of the best in the world, but you'll have to hold on to the promises. Of course, Kushina. The old man beams. Kushina scoffs and walks away. Kushina-chan, I'm glad that you've given this old man a chance to redeem himself. I'm sorry I was of no use when it came to saving your family, but trust me, I'll put in whatever my old bones have left of my former self. Unknown location. A dark room with dim light coming from neighboring rooms echoes with footsteps and a cane hitting the floor. Switch on the lights, an elderly voice ordered, and with a click bright light falls all over the room, revealing Danzo holding a bundle and a man wearing black cloak with a hood, his face covered by a mask covering everything but his amber eyes. The bundle starts crying. Danzo stares at it blankly but sports a smirk. I guess Naruto-kun didn't appreciate the light, he jokes to himself. He turns to his companion, Masaru, remove your disguise and report. The mask and cloak are thrown into air to reveal a young boy with fair skin and crimson hair, running long and wild till his shoulder. His most unique feature are the thick cheetah teardrop marks running from his amber eye till his nose. The plan was a 100% success. No one suspected the switch we made between Naruto-kun and the stillborn, which was made to look like him thanks to body replication seals. Everyone thinks he is dead. Moreover, Orochimaru took the blame in exchange for the bargain we made with him. Yes, a perfect plan worth a perfect weapon. He lifts Naruto into air and laughs maniacally, but soon Naruto is the one laughing after urinating all over the old warhawk. Masaru smirks. Looks like a lot of effort creating this weapon will be. Danzo wipes his face and glares at Masaru before turning stoic again. No problem, we'll put in every effort to create the ultimate weapon of Konoha. He lifts Naruto into air again. That's right, Naruto, you'll be the wings with which Leaf will fly at the top of the world. You are Tsubasa. Amigakure. The rain poured non-stop over the village like usual. And like usual, the village had children playing in the rain, while adults chat on coffee. Ninjas jumped place to place patrolling the village. Pain was seeing all this from the desolate towers where only a few were allowed. He feels a disturbance in space behind him but already knows the cause. Tobi-san, what brings you here on such a wonderful day? Pain-sama, Tobi-kun only want to enjoy rain with you. Tobi replies, making Pain roll his Rinnegan. Tobi also want to know who go for which demon. Pain stands up and faces Tobi. Before that, I'd like to have a few new members to bring our numbers to 9, excluding you because you're not an official member yet. For that, I'll call a meeting with our present ones. Very well, but have it done as soon as possible. Tobi speaks in Madara mode. Oh, I think I can arrange for one. That eases your work. That's great. Who is it? Kisame no Dana. Pain nods in approval. I'm going for Sasori of the Red Sands. A good addition. Madara compliments. It's been 7 years. Did you find anything? Pain changes topic. Madara sighs and shakes his head. Maybe he's in Makai. It'll take some time before he regenerates. Besides, you could revive him using your Narek path, or that one. Maybe? There are other possibilities, like maybe Kyuubi's alive but off the radar for some unknown reason. I see. Well, I'll be looking forward to meeting our 9th member. With that, Pain is left alone. He makes a ram seal. Kakuzu. Haiden. I want you to do a certain job for me. Unknown location. Shadows dance around the dark room, creating sparks every time they collide. One shadow in particular was overwhelming all the rest. They came at it in 2s and 3s, from forward and behind, from left and right. One even tore through the ground to get it, but the shadow dodged and cut its foe. Before anyone realized, there was only one standing while the rest were not. Lights. And so lights smite the darkness to reveal ninjas of different shapes and sizes, all still down by what earlier was a shadow but now is a 7-year-old boy was standing stoic with a wakizashi in his right hand. Danzo stood impressed by his masterpiece but hid it under his stoic expression. Nami, soon a masked female ninja appeared. Check for survivors and treat them. As for the dead, take them to the morgue. She didn't respond, just followed her orders. Soon the floor was clear of body. Danzo stared into the young boy's blue eyes as the boy stared back, ignoring the blonde locks of hair falling in front of his eyes. What are you? Danzo asked. Konoha's weapon. He answered with cold unfitting of his voice's sweetness. What's your purpose? To protect Konoha and raise it to new heights. What's your existence without Konoha? Meaningless. What are emotions? A ninja's weakness. What are comrades? Soldiers who fight side by side, but disposable when they get in the way of the mission. The old warhawk smirked, finding him a good question-answer session. He walks towards the boy and hands him a scroll. Well, Tsubasa, after a perfect success rate in your B-rank missions, you have proven yourself ready for your first A-rank mission. The boy stares at the scroll in curiosity. Danzo continues his briefing. As you know, we had been at war with Kumogakyo for some time before both the sides waved the white flag 3 months ago, with negotiations ongoing. Recently a delegation from Kumo arrived in guise of negotiations, but according to our intelligence their true motive is to kidnap the Hyuga's heiress, Hinata Hyuga, to merge Byakugan into its list of bloodlines of the cloud. But we can't let that happen. Byakugan must stay in Leaf and Leaf alone. Danzo kneels on one of his knees to come to Tsubasa's eye level to emphasize the seriousness of the mission. Your mission is to retrieve the heiress from them and bring her here without anyone knowing. Leave no clues or witness but the heiress herself. Report to our base at the Gai Plateau. Leave the dead bodies of the enemy ninjas, just not any proof it was us. The information on them is available in that scroll. Study them carefully and remember, failure is not an option. Do you understand? Yes, Danzo-sama. The boy replies mechanically. Danzo nods before standing up and leaving the boy alone. As he moves out of the room and into the corridor, he calls for his men. Fu. Toryun. Dust kicks up as 2 men, an orange head and a brunette with strange goggles, kneel before Danzo. I've given Tsubasa his first A-rank mission. I want you two to keep a watch over him, as we can lose him, but retrieve him only when he's unable to battle. Come with me and I'll brief you more, and the 3 walk away. Meanwhile, Tsubasa was going through the scroll. As Danzo told him, the scroll told him about their numbers, skills, special techniques, etc. Looks like I will be of greater service to Leaf, and I owe it to Leaf because despite having a power that many crave for, a ninja is useless without a village to serve for. With that thought, Tsubasa put on his hooded cloak and a mask with red wings starting from the nose. The only parts visible from his disguise were his hands, feet, and a pair of crimson eyes with slit pupils. Fire Country Forest. In the Forest of the Fire, nighttime is not a good time for a safari. Despite a full moon, there is barely enough light to make out trees a meter or 2 around oneself. Nocturnal carnivores made the forest even more discouraging to humans. Despite all this, 5 ninjas brave their way through the jungle with maximum speed. Have we lost the Kona Heights? Asked the one ahead of the group. Yes, Rorsan, can we rest now? Asked the one lagging behind his peers. Call me Captain, and no, we have to get to Kumo as fast as possible, scolded the captain. I know, Captain, but this forest is quite discouraging to travel by. The one in middle put his 2 cents, carrying Hinata on his shoulder. I know, yo. But we just kidnapped the Hyuga heiress. We have to get to the port city and follow with the next phase of the plan. Yeah, we know. Go to Land of Waves, stay low before the upcoming Cold War between Leaf and Cloud before things cool down and blah blah blah. His blasts are interrupted as kunais rain upon them. The 5 land on the ground, katanas held out. Shit! They caught up and I couldn't even sense them. We don't have time for that. The five stand in a tense silence as the one holding the hostage stood behind. They hear footsteps before a small figure covered in cloak and a mask which had red wings carved on it comes forward. It was Tsubasa. A kid? Kai mocks. Be careful. I feel something scary about this kid. Yo warns. I don't know, the youngest Jonins were 11 or 12 years old. A gasp is heard from behind. The four in front turn around and are in shock to see Yo spurting blood from his mouth staring at the blade protruding through his chest from behind. The blade twists and is violently chucked out by the assailant, the kid. He lets Yo's body fall lifeless and retrieves the heiress from his shoulder. The other four charge forward in vengeance, but Kai turns around in time to fend off a strike from behind. A solid clone? Tsubasa jumps with the girl over his shoulder as the other three jump behind him. As they chase the kid, he suddenly cuts the air. Soon two sturdy branches launch at the two besides the captain, hitting them spot on and sending them flying away. The captain stops in his tracks, realizing the mistake they made. Damn. He played us like Genins. He separated all of us to wipe us out, but it's time to show him why we are Jonins. Roar takes a stance with his katana while the kid stands impassively in front of him. I know Kai can hold his own. I just hope Len and Daisuke come back in one piece. With Kai was pushing Tsubasa back, but the kid was holding his own. As their blades clash back and forth, Kai is tired of this partial stalemate. Kai charges his sword with lightning and strikes. Without warning, the kid and his blade are cut in half before bursting into cloud. Sensing no danger, Kai moves in the direction his teammates went. With Len flies through branches before crashing into a very thick bark stuck in the dent caused by the crash, but managed to hold on to his katana despite the pain. This saved him as he was able to block a downward slash meant for him. As the kid pushed down, Len grabs his wakizashi from the sheath on his right and slashes. A cloud covers his vision, but he dodges a tanto trying to stab him. Len rolls out of the smoke to be met by a dozen of shadow clones. He charges his katana with fire chakra and wakizahi with lightning before scratching them against each other, creating destructive slash. A white crescent-shaped beam flashes towards the clones, destroying all, but soon more clones follow. He repeats performance to destroy waves after waves of clones, but soon settles to kenjutsu, afraid of losing all his chakra. He destroys every clone that comes to him. As the last clone of this wave nears him, he is about to stab when it suddenly explodes. He is sent flying toward a tree where Tsubasa appears and flashes through hand signs before releasing a huge fireball that engulfs Len, rendering him unable to fight. He is no longer recognizable and in pain, but Tsubasa relieves him. He checks the lifeless body for pulse before dispersing into smoke. With Daisuke flies through branches, struggling for breath. He rights himself by holding a branch and breaking his momentum, and in time to dodge a blade of wind aimed for him. He turns to face Tsubasa with his katana pointing at him. Tsubasa points his tanto at Daisuke. They charge at each other, meeting clangs with clangs. Soon Tsubasa distances himself from Daisuke to release another wind blade at Daisuke. But Daik substitutes himself with a log to appear behind Tsubasa and stab him, but is met with a log and blocks a lightning-charged tanto with his lightning-charged katana. They are caught in a deadlock. Tobasa suddenly lets go of his tanto and scratches Daisuke with his Kyuubi-powered claw. Daik hisses in pain, losing concentration. Tsubasa instantly grabs the tanto with his left, charging it with lightning, slitting both the katana and Daik's neck. His head roll over and the body fall to ground. Tsubasa stands still for a while before dispersing into smoke. With Roar, the captain stands with his katana poised to strike Tsubasa. What's your name, kid? He receives no answer as Tsubasa places Hinata over a branch and draws out his wakizashi. Fine, I prefer knowing who I killed, but I'll just remember you as the kid. With that said, they charge at each other. As Tsubasa was close to Roar, Roar's blade extends itself swiftly, forcing Tsubasa to duck. Roar does not stop there as his blade turns into a lightning whip, slashing and cutting branches, forcing Tsubasa to duck, jump and avoid. Tsubasa called upon Kyuubi's chakra to increase his speed, using which he managed to get into Roar's space. Roar smirks victoriously as his lightning whip suddenly forms a dome as Tsubasa is headed straight for it, but Tsubasa's blade flares with fire before striking the dome, creating a huge explosion. The explosion dies down to reveal a Tsubasa with tattered clothes and cracked mask and an overcooked Roar. Tsubasa jumps in time to avoid a rain of kunais. He turns around to see Kai holding Hinata hostage. Not bad. But if you want the girl alive, I suggest you stay in one place so that I can avenge my teammates. Kai snarls out, pressing his kunai against Hinata's neck. The boy stands still before asking, what girl? Life flashes before his eyes as he realizes the one he's holding is a dummy ready to explode. After the explosion, Tsubasa goes to a bark and pulls out the camouflage cloak, revealing the Hyuga heiress. He retrieves her and rushes to the hideout. Mission accomplished. Root Hideout Guy Plateau. Tsubasa rushes through forest with the heiress yet to wake up from his shoulder. Rushing through the forest, he soon comes into an opening coming in view of Guy Plateau. The plateau was green from all sides, the top and the edges. It had a huge waterfall falling from one of its sides, creating a lake. Tsubasa walks across the lake and into the waterfall, where he reaches a cave and Danzo standing in front of it. Danzo moves towards Tsubasa and plucks a nada from his shoulder. Well done, Tsubasa, you've done a good job. You may continue with your training. Tsubasa gives a curt nod before entering the cave. Danzo waits till he's gone. Fu. Toryun. Status update. Both ninjas appear instantly leaning in front of him. Fu reports Danzo-sama. The mission was carried out by Tsubasa without any difficulty. He defeated the 5 jonins within 17 minutes with clever tactics, using Kyuubi's power only thrice and learned a new trick. Danzo stares passively. I'd like to know more later. For now I'd like to initiate the process of molding Hinata into one of us. You can come meet me at midnight. The agents nod and Shushin out of his sight. You sure you don't have to worry about the Hokage finding our base or another war with Kumo? A new voice asks. Danzo nods in positive. Yes. I'm sure, Masaru. I'm not worried about Hokage because Naruto didn't leave any tracks, and what he may have left were cleared by Fu and Toryun, and I'm not worried about war because either villages are willing to go for one despite the mighty charade they'll put up. What if Hokage-sama gets a backbone? There is tense silence before Danzo turns around and smirks. So you think the old man going senile and is out to get himself and everyone else killed? Not at all. I just wanted to know what if. Danzo turns away from Masaru and answers, don't worry, the worst that'll happen is that the two villages won't come in terms to a friendly alliance. Now watch the base till Hikari returns, then head to Konoha with Tsubasa. With that said, Danzo fades into thin air. Masaru ponders over all that he heard just now, then he shakes his head and enters deep into the cave. Hokage's hall room. The hall room was currently occupied with jonins, Anbus and samurais lined in files, and the Hokage, daimyo of the Fire Country, and other important officials inspecting the files. After inspection, the officials stand in front of the files. The Hokage walks forward and announces the purpose of this meeting. Ninjas and samurais of the Fire Country, as you must be aware, the village hidden in cloud kidnapped Hinata Hyuga, the heiress of the Hyuga clan, in guise of a peace delegation. They were able to outrun us, but they'll not get away with this. We'll be having a meeting with the Reikage and the daimyo of Lightning in their village. We are taking you with us in case things turn ugly. That all for now. We leave at the evening. Meet us at 5:30 p.m. With that, the files broke to exit the office. The officials remained. The Hokage turned to them and said, you may leave as well. Daimyo-sama, let me escort you to the guest room. Hayashi wanted to say something, but Hokage cut him to it. Don't worry, Hyuga-san, your daughter will be home safe and sound. Hayashi nodded at the reassurance before taking his leave. The Hokage escorted the daimyo to the guest room, and then took to his office. There he was greeted by a female Anbu wearing a fox mask. Ah, Kushina-chan. Welcome back. Hiruzen greeted with a genuine smile. Thanks, Sandaime-sama, it's good to be back. She returned in a monotone. Well, Kitsune-san, how was your mission? Sandaime asked, disappointed at the monotone he received earlier. Success. As expected from you. But there's more. Till now all we've learned is that Orochimaru has joined a mysterious group called Akatsuki. They wear black cloak with red clouds, but yesterday I identified 2 other members, Kakuzu of Takigakure and Haiden of Yugakure. The 2 were at a bounty station, the one close to border between Fire and Wind Country, discussing about recruiting Sasori of the Red Sand. The Kakuzu is the same one who fought Shodaime Hokage and survived, and Haiden the same who caused slaughter in his own village. I tried tailing, but they got away. The Hokage nodded grimly at the information. This is very serious. From what we've learned so far, this Akatsuki is a fruit basket of S-ranked criminals with an obviously ominous agenda. If they were at a bounty station, they must be trying to fill their pockets for whatever purpose they have in mind. I'll inform Jiraiya and ask him to keep an eye on as many bounty stations as possible for those 2. You take your leave and rest for a while before restarting your hunt. I won't be available for a week or so because something important has come up. You may report to the Anbu chief on your next hunt. Kushina got up and saluted before leaving the office. Hiruzen scribbled a quick letter and ordered his assistant to have it delivered to Jiraiya via messenger hawks instantly without delay. Someone knocked on the door. Enter. Hokage permitted. An Anbu entered the room. You called me, sir? Yes, this is about the kidnapping of Hinata Hyuga. As you know, we know Kumo is behind this, but the Reikage won't admit it at the meeting. I hope you understand what I want you to do. Yes, Hokage-sama, I understand. Good. Wave. The land of waves, a small island close to the ruins of the former land of Eddie that was once a great nation of ninjas but now it's lost in history books due to past wars. The towns of Waves were bustling in prosperity, unaware of the foreigners among them. These foreigners were the ninjas of the Leaf. They had just arrived here after the meeting with the Raikage, and they were going to be here for a while. Hiruzen overwatched from the top of a high cylinder with an Anbu with cheetah mask right beside him. Sir, it's been 3 days since we left Kumo, you should head back. Thanks for your concern, Anbu, but it's not every time a Kage gets to move out of his village. Besides, I would like to see the fruit of the troubles we went through to retrieve Hinata-chan. Hiruzen replied, then chuckles to himself. The young Raikage's face was worth watching when the daimyo of lightning forced to allow us to search the village. That bull burned his own table. I am sure I'll get to see that face again, when the horse learns everything came out of his mouth. Flashback. Raikage Tower's rooftop Kumo. The Raikage, a Herculean man with dark skin, small mustache, beard, and pale blonde hair pulled back, fumed in anger and humiliation, grabbing the railings too hard for their well-being. The Hokage stood stoic behind him, both seemingly supervising the trackers who had spread throughout Kumo. It's a good view, reminds me of Konoha when I look from my rooftop. Hiruzen tries at a conversation with A. Old man, I know we are the only ones here, but that does not mean I'm in a mood for socialization. A glares right into the aged man's eyes, trying not to thunder, but is met with a smirk, and then his eyes bleed red with black four-pointed shurikens. Suddenly all the storm leaves the Raikage's face, replaced with unusually calm sea. I know, Raikage-sama, so let us talk of something else, like where exactly is the Hyuga heiress? She is with the delegation in Wave. They'll stay there till I send them the word for return. Who are in this delegation? Roar, Yo, Kai, Len and Daisuke. Did you have any document or file regarding this mission? If so, where is it? In my office under the right drawer I have a copy of mission scrolls. Thank you, now return to what you were doing and forget this conversation ever happened. The Raikage nods his head, and as soon as he turns around the Hokage disappears and reappears. He turns to the door to rooftop from which red eyes peek from it. Hiruzen nods and the eyes vanish. He turns back to the Raikage. Good job, Shursui Uchiha. It's a good view, reminds me of Konoha when I look from my rooftop. Hiruzen tries at a conversation with A. Glares right into the aged man's eyes, trying not to thunder. Old man, I know we are the only ones here, but that does not mean I'm in a mood for socialization. He cusses something under breath, then turns back to viewing the village. End of flashback. After that, Shursui got to work and retrieved the proof. The trackers were called back. Just as A was reprimanding the Hokage and the daimyo about disrespect to Kumo and that Kumo would never fall so low as to kidnap little girl, Shursui came with the proof. A called it conspiracy, but when threatened with war, A confessed. Lightning's daimyo apologized on behalf of his country, and besides vowing to suspend missions for Kumo and curfew so that the ninjas of Leaf could retrieve Hyuga Hinata, he offered monetary recompense of 40 million ryo and a ninja from Kumo. After all, daimyos, unlike the Kages, were of samurai descent and upheld honor and justice to their hearts. The leaders of fire accepted this except for a ninja of Kumo and requested for ninja techniques instead, to which A had to agree to. Needless to say, the alliance was out of question. By the way, Shursui-kun, good job. The Hokage compliments pleasantly. Thanks, Hokage-sama, that truly means a lot, Shursui replies with courtesy, though on the inside, thanks? Thanks? That's all? After 3 days. What the fuck, old man? I was playing with Mr. King Kong. I could have been killed. I deserve a holiday or a bonus. Once we return to Konoha, you'll receive a bonus and a week off. Suddenly the pleasant aura turns cold. That is, unless you were cursing me in your mind. Of course not, Sir. Shursui spoke without fear, though on the inside he was shivering with fear, hoping the Hokage would turn his eyes away from him. Lucky for Shursui, a messenger hawk distracts the Hokage as he unties the letter from the hawk's leg. The air turns dead serious as the Hokage rushes through the contents. He burns the letter after reading. Shursui, call back the Anbu teams. He turns towards the dock. We're going home. Meanwhile, Konoha. The town was bustling in prosperity. People were roaming about minding their business merrily while businesses prospered in this merry environment. No one would believe that this village was a survivor of the wrath of the mightiest demon, but 7 years had been enough for people to recover physically and mentally. While people haven't forgotten the incident, both the civilians and ninjas have moved forward, choosing to live in the present rather than in the past. However, this wasn't same for all. As parents send their children off to play, a shadow of the past watches what could have been her present from the balcony of her room. Kushina, currently dressed in her Anbu attire bar the mask, watched the scene with a soft smile from the balcony of her rented apartment. Oh, how she envied them, wishing she were one of the parents, and Naruto one of the children, but everything was lost, she frowns. No, everything was snatched away from her, and she'd crush the snake and the dead man for this if it were the last thing she did. That's nice of you to wait for me at balcony. A voice she'd recognize anywhere poke from behind. It's not like you to use the door, Jiraiya-san, might as well wait from the entrance you prefer. Jiraiya frowned at the lack of warmth in her greeting, but there was nothing he could do about it. Ever since that day, Kushina's only purpose in life was revenge on Orochimaru and Madara. After all, if it weren't for these two, she'd still have her family. I hope you didn't come here to stand idle, Kushina breaks Jiraiya from his thoughts. Of course not, Jiraiya leans back on the railing of the balcony. I came here to sit inside and then tell you what I found out from my informant. Kushina rolls her eyes but invites him in. Jiraiya takes a seat in the dining hall of the one-bedroom apartment. Kushina closes the windows and curtains them, then puts up privacy seals to prevent eavesdropping. She takes her seat, motioning for Jiraiya to start talking. My informant happens to have special abilities, which is why he was able to spy on the Akatsuki who came at the bounty station in the Land of Rivers. They were none other than Haiden and Kakuzu, who came searching for Sasori. Sasori happened to enter just few minutes after they took their seats at the canteen to claim his bounty. As soon as Sasori claimed his bounty, the two Akatsuki members confronted him, assuring him that this was not a fight. The three took their seats and started talking about the offer. Kakuzu explained that they were from Akatsuki, a group of S-rank ninjas which had big plans for the world but were currently financing with help of S-rank missions. When asked who the leader was, Haiden said they were led by a powerful leader unknown to the world, and he could meet him upon accepting their invitation. Sasori asked what's in it for him. Kakuzu replied that they were aware of Sasori's wish for immortality, and they had Orochimaru who has same dream, and they were themselves somewhat immortal, so they could help him, and that having a group of S-rankers around while doing missions will discourage people from hunting him. Sasori accepted the offer. The three moved out while my informant followed, cloaking his existence. You remember that time when you first saw the two and how they just vanished? Kushina nodded. Well, as they reached an isolated area, my informant saw Haiden's ring glowing, and out of nowhere a porthole appeared. The trio went in and disappeared. A porthole? Shock evident in Kushina's voice. Yes, a porthole. I don't know whether that guy on the night was Madara or not, but running a gang of S-rankers with big plans for the world, and that porthole point towards someone very powerful like Madara. He was famous for a lot of stuff, and space-time techniques are one of them. Kushina sat grim on the outside but was furious on the inside, as evident from her shaky tone in her inquiry. So Orochimaru and Madara are most probably working together. Moreover, if we catch Akatsuki, we catch them both. So why haven't we? Those guys use portals for traveling. Tracking them will be very hard. Seeing Kushina frown, he tries to console her. Don't worry, Tomato Head, if they have plans for the world, we'll surely meet them. If they have Sasori, that means they'll try spying on the hidden villages, so we can be cautious about rats in the house with his special memory seal. Kushina gets up from her chair and moves to the door. Jiraiya didn't ask where she was going because he knew that nowadays she trains when upset, which was very often due to years of no leads on the two vigilantes. Jiraiya himself wanted a piece of those two for destroying his foster family and leaving his daughter a miserable mess. She didn't even react when I called her Tomato Head. He himself leaves her apartment, watching Kushina lock the door before making her way. Oh well, I'd better tell the old man about this when he comes. 3 days later, Hokage Tower. The building stood modestly amongst the buildings of the village, close to the cliff on which the faces of the 4 Hokages, 3 in the past and 1 in present. Inside the building, Danzo paced through the corridors without a second glance at the passerby, pondering over why did Hiruzen call him. As he reaches the office, he meets the assistant, who tells him that the Hokage is waiting inside. Danzo nods and moves in, greeted by a blank glare from the Hokage sitting on his chair with interlaced fingers. Danzo takes his seat without greeting, meeting his rival with the same glare. The Hokage was used to these antics from his childhood rival, so does not reprimand him. Do you know why we're here? That's exactly what I want to know, Hiruzen. You do know about the kidnapping of Hyuga Hinata, right? Yes. What you may not know is that we were able to prove Kumo's hand and will receive 40 million Ryo and 10 A-rank jutsus indigenous to Cloud as recompense. Danzo is shocked but smirks a little. For the first time, Hiruzen, you proved you're not going senile, but frowns at an alternative. But couldn't you ask for something else, like one of their bijou? Hiruzen is annoyed. That's out of question. The daimyos won't stand for it. He prevents Danzo from cutting in. But we're not here about that. We're here because we couldn't find Hinata and Kumo or Wave, but we found her kidnappers' dead bodies in middle of the forest between Port City and Leaf, and interestingly, we have evidence of some ninja techniques indigenous to Leaf. Let me get this straight, you suspect me? taking Hiruzen's silence as an affirmative, looks slightly exasperated. You have no proof against me, nor do you have proof that Root is still running, so you might want to excuse me. Suddenly the temperature drops down, but Danzo meets Hiruzen's eyes with the same cold. Shimura, Danzo, don't forget I'm the Hokage, not you. What I say goes. You're already under unwanted spotlight, Hiruzen. People of Konoha aren't happy. The Uchihas are agitated as of late. The last Uzumaki could care less about you, and if you think the small victory over will do anything to calm the situation, you're very much wrong. Face it, Hiruzen, as you're running out of allies, I'm gaining more. It won't take much to bring you down. So you're saying, you'd be willing to cause a rebellion against me? Hiruzen smirks. Danzo widens his working eye, realizing his mistake, and tries to rectify it, but Hiruzen denies him excuses. You'll be sent to interrogation under Yamanaka Inoichi and Marino Ibiki on grounds of suspicion for scheming against the state. Before Danzo could do anything, Anbu agents hail him away to interrogation room. Hiruzen sighs. He always wanted to place Danzo under one of those mind-walking techniques. But under the law, without proof, or at least strong grounds of suspicion, that wasn't possible. He started having his doubts when non-Konoha ninjas started disappearing, ending in Konoha's favor. It grew over the years but he didn't have enough proof, and his suspicions were not based on strong grounds, but now he'd know for sure if Root existed. Anbu interrogation cell 3 hours later. Inoichi was deeply concentrating, probing far deep into Danzo's mind under watch of Ibiki and Hiruzen. Inoichi stops, then faces the Hokage. Nothing, sir. I've probed to the deepest possible regions, but there's no root or thoughts of a rebellion. He made that statement due to his anger at what he saw as your incompetence and personal frustration, Inoichi stated. Very well, wake him up and tell him we have a ninja council meeting at 5 p.m., Hiruzen orders and leaves. Inoichi follows through the order. Danzo wakes up cursing. Hiruzen under breath covers his bandaged stump under his black cloak and takes leave. As Danzo is walking through corridors, he feels a slight headache, then suddenly it disappears. He paces out of the Anbu vicinity. Piquing his senses, he makes his way through village population to a rundown butcher shop. He is ignored as he walks by the butcher's to a door. It is pitch black, but he can feel the stairs. He climbs down till he reaches the end of stairs when lights are turned on to show Masaru to Danzo. Mission accomplished. We drew attention from us, Masaru. Masaru sighs with relief. He respected Danzo just like any Root, but this was a crazy stunt. Before the mission, he tried to persuade Danzo to target another Hyuga, but Danzo was insistent on having the heiress, stating she had potential to surpass any Hyuga in Konoha of past and present, but was being wasted by the Orthodox clan. I must compliment your memory seal. It is almost a copy of Sasori's seal, but better with the timer and camouflage. I think it can help with Root's spy network be just as good as Sasori's. Thank for your compliment, Danzo-sama. But I honestly feel you had better control over yourself without my seal, Masaru replied. Need I remind you that I was meant to be arrested to test your seal? Granted, it happened faster than expected, but this is the first time this seal was ever used. Masaru, I appreciate perfectionism, but not to the extent that you become pessimist and dismiss resources as wasteful due to a few defects. Do you understand? Yes, sir. And what of Tsubasa? He's trying out tricks he learned from the Kumo ninjas. Would you like to see? Danzo nods. Masaru leads him to a training hall. There he sees Naruto training with his clones. 20 clones rush in at 2. One uses great fireball technique, while the other releases a spark into the ball from behind. The results are instant. The fireball turns bright white and grows humongous in size, then an explosion takes place covering everything with light. As the light dims, it reveals 2 clone unharmed one side, while everything from 6 meters ahead of him to 12 meters ahead of that point destroyed. Danzo is impressed. Konoha's weapon is becoming lethal as days pass by. Danzo-sama, I was wondering if I could train him in using special Uzumaki techniques. You stole the words from my mouth. However, no sealing techniques. Masaru tries to protest but is stopped. Are you growing concerned for your brethren? For Tsubasa, Danzo-sama, he could face seal masters who know how to seal bijou, etc. Plus he has grown up in a manner that does not allow sympathy, and already has impressive control over the beast. What I meant was not yet sealing is after all a long art. You can start when I tell you to. At this, Masaru nods. They resume watching Konoha's weapon play with fireworks. Root base near Konoha. Okay, Tsubasa, that will be enough for now. Tsubasa halted his training at Masaru's instruction and turned towards Danzo and Masaru. Masaru went beside Tsubasa, awaiting Danzo's orders. Tsubasa, 2 of Root's trainees, Saito and Reizo, have run away. I want you to find them and bring them to the base near Otafukugai, alive and if possible unharmed. Root's trackers are unable to track them. Search panels have been set up in all the potential places they may be hiding in, but the 2 haven't been found. Odd as it may sound, but I suspect that they are heading towards Konoha. You and Masaru will set up a perimeter around and wait for them. Masaru will join you later. You may leave now. Tsubasa nodded and moved towards the door. As soon as he opened it, a gushing sound could be heard. Tsubasa exited the door before he closed it. Those two were supposed to have their test today, right? Yes, Masaru, but they became too attached to each other, something this test would rid them of, but they didn't like it. You know what we will do with them. Masaru nodded, of course. On to the main reason I called you here. Kenshin requested a meeting with the head of each base at Otafukagai. Did he give a reason? He did, and he'll give it to you personally. Masaru nodded. How far along has the Hyuga princess reached? Last I checked with Hikari, that girl was a crying mess. I see. Ask Hikari for updates when you go to her base and tell Hikari to start training her immediately if she hasn't already. Got it. Good, I'll leave now. I have to attend a ninja council meeting at 5 p.m. They nodded to each other before parting ways. As soon as Masaru got out, Masaru performed summoning jutsu, and many falcons appeared in a puff of smoke. He took out a few scrolls and wrote something. After finishing that, he gave them the scrolls and some instructions, and they flew away within a blink of an eye. Masaru rushed towards the direction Tsubasa had earlier taken. Soon he sees Tsubasa rushing forward through trees. With Tsubasa. Swallows twittered in the sky, flying above the road, cutting through the forest, turning dimmer by the minute as sun moved towards the horizon to set, but all this didn't matter to Tsubasa, who rushed through the trees at high speeds. As he ran, he heard swishing noises from behind. He turned to see Masaru, dashing towards him. Tsubasa didn't stop, sure Masaru would catch up. Soon Masaru caught up and commented, "You seem rather sure they'll come from this road." This road is the shortest path between Otafukagai and Konoha. Just then they see a falcon flying towards them from front. It circles twice above before flying forward. We got something. They move forward, taking cover in the woods, till they see a man driving a bullock cart. They weren't close to the cart, but they could still smell the spices. They would have called it a false lead and left, but Masaru noticed that the man's lips were moving. Wait. It's quite possible that they are hiding in the cart. Let's spy on him, pay attention to any suspicious behavior. They focused all their senses on the bullock cart, and soon they heard the driver talking with two children, probably their targets. Hey! Old man! How much longer till we reach Konoha? One child whispered quickly. It's just a few more kilometers. Now please remain silent till we reach the gates. Someone might hear us, the man whispered back. Why are we going to Konoha again? I feel so scared. Saito, I know it's dangerous, but we have to get to the Hokage and tell him about Root so that we can free our other friends. Masaru and Tsubasa nod to each other. They found the targets. Besides, we made it this far by this guy's help. Nothing could go wrong now. Just then they heard a terrible scream and the cart stopped and crashed. They pull the cover off themselves and see a child, wearing mask and Root uniform, standing over the headless body of the cart driver. Shit! They found us, Reizo. What do we do now? Saito, being very young, couldn't help but panic at the situation. Surrender yourselves or else, Tsubasa warned them, his blue eyes flashing cold through his fox-shaped mask, his blood-stained tanto in his left hand, pointing at them. We didn't escape the base and hitchhike on that guy's cart to return to the base. Let's run, Reizo. Saito cried out, with little tears in his eyes. We didn't even ask him for his name, he regretted. Saito, wait. Reizo held Sato's hand. We can't run. What are you talking about? Look at his mask. Reizo pointed at Tsubasa's mask, particularly at the red wing-like pattern on its left side. Reizo, being 2 years elder, had a better idea of what that meant. That kid is Tsubasa. He's really strong. We can't escape him. We have to face him. Saito gulped at that. He'd heard some nasty rumors about Tsubasa, one of them being that though he looked like a kid, he was actually a demon from hell. He didn't know what Reizo was thinking, but even he, a 7-year-old, could tell that they had to run. He didn't even spare the bull. He'll surely rip us apart. Meanwhile, Tsubasa was carefully analyzing them. Both have brown hair and brown eyes, wear standard Root uniform, kunai pouch, goggles. The elder has a chain sickle and the younger is holding nothing, probably preparing for a technique. And the younger did go through a few hand signs shouting, wind style, howling wind. Soon, the wind started blowing hard, literally howling. Reizo reacted immediately, flinging the weight into the cart, breaking all the boxes, thus creating a storm of spices, effectively blocking sight, and immediately whipped the weight at Tsubasa, catching his left arm about to pull him, but Tsubasa pulled him instead. lifting Reizo to the sky and about to bang him into the ground, but Reizo managed to land on his feet and held Tsubasa's left with his chain. Before Tsubasa could react, kunais rained on him, but he blocked them all with his own kunai. If it weren't for the silhouettes, he wouldn't have been able to tell their positions. Tsubasa sent lightning chakra through the chain, holding him while blocking the kunais, causing Reizo's hold to slacken from shock. Tsubasa gripped the chain and swung Reizo at Saito. As the runaways collided, Tsubasa concentrated his chakra and released a powerful gust of wind that stopped the spice storm and cleared the area. Tsubasa looked around but found no sign of them. I lost track of them, and they didn't even leave a trail, except this scent, and it is everywhere. They could be heading for Konoha, but if they aren't, the scent should end before I reach Konoha. But they could also be taking a detour. What should I do? He waited for some time and then ran towards Konoha. As soon as he left, Reizo peered out of a bush followed by Saito. Seeing no sign of Tsubasa, they came out of the bush. Reizo faced Saito and said, "He's probably gone to Konoha. It'll be safer to go take a detour." "No, it won't," spoke a mischievous voice from behind, freezing the two runaways on the spot. They turned around and were poked in their forehead by a tall redhead in a falcon mask, and then their world turned dark. Masaru caught the fainting kids and put them over his shoulders. Man, these kids gave Tsubasa some trouble. He saw Tsubasa running back towards him. "I didn't need help," Masaru smirked at Tsubasa, who had emerged from behind. "I know, but I had to do it." He handed the kids to Tsubasa. He reached into his cloak and pulled out scroll, then let it fall and rolled open like a toilet paper. He sealed the carcasses of the man and his bull along with the broken cart into the scroll. When done, he set it ablaze, destroying the scroll and its contents. Masaru performed the summoning technique. A large puff of smoke emerged, but it was soon blown away by heavy winds, thus revealing a huge falcon, flapping his brown wings and making a screeching. As soon as the falcon settled down, Masaru and Tsubasa climb on his back with the runaways. Otafukugai base, Masaru tells him. The falcon caws and takes off. The falcon kept rising till the forest looked like a green carpet with the road cutting through it like a thick line. They flew along the line at jet speed. Flying above the ground at this speed relaxed their nerves. Though he'd never admit it to anyone, to Tsubasa there was nothing better than wind hitting his face, which was one reason he enjoyed Masaru's rare company, which also he wouldn't admit. It was a smart move, Masaru spoke up, breaking Tsubasa out of his trance, making them think they were really fighting you while hiding to ambush them. This tactic was your advice. Tsubasa brushed off Masaru's compliments. Yes, but you've taken this basic tactic to whole new levels. Moving on, I want to tell you that I'll be training you for some time in one of our bases under Danzo-sama's orders. We'll discuss about this later. For now, Masaru grins, brace yourself. Tsubasa clutched harder onto the boys and falcon, and just then the falcon crossed Mach 1, causing a sonic boom, forming a dense white disk behind. Anyone seeing them from below would mistake them for meteors if at all he or she could see them. Within a minute, they could see the wall bordering Otafukugai. The falcon decelerated till it's flying at speed of an ordinary falcon. He rose above the clouds to avoid sight and suspicion. After flying for about 3 minutes in a particular direction, he took one swift dive down to the ground, piercing through clouds and into pit hole. The hole lead into short tunnel with light at its other end. Otafukugai base. As soon as they dived into the light, they see a training ground, with many children in uniform with mask and cloak standing in rows and columns, in front of them 5 target posts. The falcon spread his wings and descended slowly till he landed with grace, and then caused with pride before settling. Masaru and Tsubasa got off the falcon's back and handed over Reizo and Saito to the ninjas, who tied the kids to the posts in front of the other kids. They were greeted by a midnight blue-haired kunoichi wearing the uniform. Her pale skin had a ghostly glow that added to her beauty. But her most noticeable feature, even more so than her hourglass figure, were her pupilless white eyes. "Welcome, Masaru-san. Shall we go ahead with the execution?" "Of course, Hikari-san, please continue." Hikari walked towards the posts followed by Masaru and Naruto. She faced the children tied to the posts, who were still unconscious. She scoffed before making a few hand signs, and the children woke up as if someone had pricked them with a needle. "I hope you'll pardon this rude awakening," she apologized with little sincerity. "Then again, you deserve it. Reizo and Saito, you two committed treason by trying to abandon Root and inform the Hokage of Root's existence. As such, you both could be executed." "You don't say," Reizo taunted. In response, Hikari made tiger hand sign, causing Reizo to scream in agony. Children witnessing this were terrified. Even the most trained ones couldn't help but flinch at Reizo's agony. As soon as Hikari released her fingers to stop the seal, Reizo stopped screaming and started wheezing. "As I was saying," Hikari continued, peeved by Reizo's joke, "you both could be executed. However, Danzo-sama sees too much potential in you to let it go wasted, and so he decided to give you both a chance. All you have to do is continue with your duel to death and the winner moves on. No way. Reizo replied, wheezing with every pause, there's just no way I'll kill my friend. As expected, and what is your decision, Saito? Will you take this chance of redemption or die a traitor? Saito remained silent for some time. He glanced at his friend, then at the masked woman. Well, what is your decision? Hikari asked, her impatience clear in words but not voice. Saito looks down. I want to live. He lifts his head and screams, but not at the cost of my friend. Everything came to pause. Reizo finally caught his breath. Hearing his friend made him smirk. Very well. With that said, Hikari turned to the first row of new recruits and nodded. 2 young recruits marched from the first row to the captives, each holding a kunai in their right hand. They placed them at the throats of Reizo and Saito before slitting their throats. Most of the trainees witnessing this closed their eyes and tried not to scream. Then the recruits untied their bodies from post and laid them on ground. They used a small fire jutsu to burn their bodies into ashes. After that, all recruits left hall, leaving Hikari, Masaru, and Tsubasa alone. Whoa! That was harsh. And to think we went through the trouble of bringing them back alive. To be fair, Masaru, they had a chance, Hikari retorts. Now can we get back to business, Captain? Sure, Captain Hikari. Masaru mock saluted, receiving a scoff from Hikari. Yeah, Danzo-sama wanted updates on Hinata Hyuga. She's better. She stopped her whining and listens to me quietly like a good girl. In fact, she managed to keep her screams to herself. Then she spoke to herself. Honestly though, why her out of all the Hyugas? Even I don't know what goes on in Danzo-sama's mind. Masaru ignores Hikari's growls, but he asked if you started training her. Yes, I started as soon as she woke up. She is actually quite good, but her lack of confidence and kindness is a problem. Those can be fixed in time. A deep voice joined in their conversation. Oh look, the rest have arrived! Hikari exclaimed. Masaru and Tsubasa turned to greet the newcomers. Greetings, captains, Tsubasa greeted politely. Yo Kenshin, I'm glad you arrived on time. And you brought Fong and Nin along, Masaru greeted them his way. Likewise, Kenshin greeted them back. He was a redhead with violet eyes and tan skin. He had average height but was well built. Your antiques are intolerable as always, Nin reproached Masaru, who scoffed in reply. Nin had dark gray hair, black eyes and tan skin. He was very tall and buff. Whatever, Fong growled out. He had brown skin and dark brown hair. He was tall and athletic in build. Can we just finish the work we came here for? Fong asked. Calm down, Fong, it won't take long, Kenshin replied. Tsubasa, you may use the training grounds, Hikari dismissed Tsubasa. Tsubasa nodded and blurred towards the training grounds. Hikari turned towards them and said, now let us continue. Route Otafukagai base. Shall we continue? Hikari asked Kenshin as the others turned to him. Kenshin maintained a blank silence for a while, then he pulled out a map. I got a message from Captain Inari regarding a suspected breach into Yuzushiogakure outpost. A suspected breach? Fong asked, and we're going to check it out, aren't we? Kenshin nodded. It might be a false alarm, but in case it isn't, that means we have a serious issue. How can we be sure that the infiltrator is still in there? Nin asked. We'll have to find out, Kenshin sighed. Masaru, I know you wanted to train Tsubasa and Yuzu, but your plans will have to wait. This breach takes the priority. Everyone nodded in acknowledgement. Soon they dispersed out of the base. With Tsubasa. Tsubasa stood still in a well-lit corridor. The floor was wet, but the walls were very well designed, not that it mattered to him. What mattered to him was the beast napping behind the golden bars. Kyuubi, Tsubasa whispered. The beast snapped an eye open with a guttural growl. He then rose to his feet, his 9 tails twitching and twirling like flames. What do you want? Kyuubi asked in annoyance. I want the 3rd tail. Tsubasa replied, staring into Kyuubi's bloody slit eyes. There was an intense silence for some time, but then Kyuubi erupted in laughter. Ha ha ha, how about no? Why not? You don't even use the 2nd tail all that often. I'll use your power when I need to. Foolish boy. You'll use nothing. Kyuubi roared. Only Kyuubi can use Kyuubi's power. Kyuubi's roar made the room tremble. Any man in Tsubasa's place would flee and hide in a hole like a rat. But Tsubasa stood still, his blonde hair pulled back by the force of the roar and blue eyes staring into Kyuubi's crimson pair with usual apathy. They stared at each other for some time, then Kyuubi groaned, "Boy, is it hard to get a reaction out of you. Well, I'll give as many tales as you need not want. For now, tend to your visitor." With that said, the fox disappeared into darkness. The room turned dark in an instant, then Tsubasa opened his eyes to find a girl with pearly eyes staring at him. Hyuga Hinata, Tsubasa told himself, but remained still in his meditative position, expecting her to leave, but she remained. Excuse me, do you know where Hikari-san is?" she asked. Tsubasa stayed silent for a while and then replied, "She has left on a mission and most probably won't be back before nightfall." Hinata murmured a thanks and then left. "Interesting, she holds a resemblance to Hikari," Kyuubi whispered from his confines. "They're both Hyugas," Tsubasa replied. "Yes, of course." En route to Yuzu. Kenshin and team were flying towards Yuzu on Falcon summons at supersonic speeds above Canopy of Fire's forest. Soon they reached the seashore, crossed the sea to reach a bunch of islands. The captains tapped their falcon's neck twice. The falcons slowed down as they reached a large island surrounded by whirlpools and pegged by icy mountains. "We're close to Yuzushio," the blue falcon Kenshin was riding alerted. "It's been a while since you visited, eh? Not that there's much left to see." "Sora, is it really so hard to keep your mouth shut?" The silver one Hikari was riding mocked. "What's your problem, Kumo? Kenshin-san doesn't mind, right?" Kenshin turned to Masaru and asked, "Masaru, can we exchange falcons?" "Kaze seems like the quieter type," referring to the light green one Masaru was riding. "Love you too, Kenshin," Sora retorted before descending into the ranges. The others followed suit. They glided and tilted between mountains, avoided many cliffs by inches, braved chilly winds. This went on till they finally reached a rocky platform surrounded by tents. The falcons spread their wings, falling slowly towards the land before they landed on their claws. The riders jumped off as soon as the falcons landed. The falcons cawed before taking off, leaving gust and dust behind. Hikari turned to Kenshin, who nodded in reply. Hikari moved forward as veins near her eyes bulged, seemingly straining her pearly eyes. She searched the tents with her Byakugan. "The tents are a mess. Someone was searching for something," she reported. "Probably those two behind the trees. A woman and a puppet." Foam unsheathed a pair of wakizashis and took a stance, followed by Kenshin and Masaru, who unsheathed their katanas. Hikari took out a pair of sais, and Nin a pair of kunais. Only silence could be heard for 2 whole minutes, yet not a soul could be seen or heard. Then suddenly a blue-haired woman wearing a slashed-aim headband around her neck and a black cloak with red clouds appeared on a tree branch in front of them. "Akatsuki? Here?" Foam whispered. "You may call out the other one," Kenshin called out to Akatsuki Ninja. In response, a hunchback appeared. He was wearing a similar cloak, a straw hat and a mask. "The hunchback Sasori of the Red Sand, but who's this lady?" Masaru asked out loud. "You may call me Tenchi," Tenchi replied. "Now answer our question, where are the Uzumaki vaults?" Maybe in Yuzushio-gakure?" Masaru replied with a cheeky grin, causing Sasori to growl. 2 against 6 doesn't put you in good odds, Akatsuki-san, Nin pointed out. "It will be us interrogating you. Not to mention we ourselves are yet to find them," Hikari thought to herself. "True," Sasori replied, staring intently at Masaru and Kenshin. "Numbers matter." 10 marionettes pounced upon root members. Kenshin and Masaru reacted quickly, flinging ink upon puppets which formed patterns and then set them ablaze, leaving nothing but ash. Tenchi was about to attack, but Sasori held her back. "Ah, so you too are Uzumakis. Search for the vaults may have been a failure, but this wasn't a total waste of time." Nin replied with a grand fireball as Foam added speed and power by blowing a strong wind technique into the fireball, but the giant fireball was rendered useless by Tenchi, who sealed the fire in a paper. The Akatsuki members were then sucked into a portal. The captains couldn't help but remain stupefied for a minute. So what exactly did Sasori mean by "this wasn't a total waste of time"? Masaru's courtesy. "He probably wants to make new puppets out of you too," Hikari stated. "Intel on him says he likes doing that." Before anyone could reply, "Oh, Captain Inari is here with his team." Just then a man wearing a hooded cloak and tiger mask arrived, followed by 25 men wearing the very same outfit. "Is everything all right here?" Inari asked. "Where were you?" Nin questioned Inari. "We split up to search the mountains. I didn't leave anyone behind because there is nothing of importance at the camp," Inari explained himself. "We found nothing, so we returned here." "Oh. So, did you find something?" The intruders were 2 Akatsuki members, Sasori of the Red Sands and a blue-haired woman called Tenchi. "We know Sasori, but about Tenchi we only know that she's a rouge ninja from the village hidden in rain and somewhat skilled in sealing." They escaped using some space-time technique, Masaru filled him in. Oh. Let us leave, Kenshin said before summoning the falcons they rode earlier. You guys go ahead, I've got some work with Inari, Masaru replied. The others nodded and flew off. The other agents went back to tents, leaving Masaru and Inari alone. Inari led Masaru to his tent. Inari took off his mask and hood, revealing his features. Inari had whitish skin, messy black hair and sharp black eyes. So, I guess you won't be training Tsubasa in Yuzushiogakure now, Inari asked. Wouldn't want to bring him under Akatsuki's radar. I guess that's a huge relief for you, isn't it? Masaru replied in a cold manner. What? Why would I? Inari, I know about her. Everything stopped moving for Inari. Masaru continued. You'll have to forget her. I can't, Masaru, I love her. Ninjas of Root love nothing but Konoha. I haven't forgotten my duties, Masaru. Being with Nami-chan isn't distracting me from them. Danzo-sama won't see it that way. You have to forget her or else. Inari grabbed Masaru's collar. Or else what? Masaru slaps Inari's hands off his collar. I just delivered 2 children for execution. You can only imagine what could happen to you and your lover. And you know well you can neither fight us nor hide from us. Inari grit his teeth in frustration. I've kept this information from reaching Danzo-sama and people likely to report to him, Masaru reassured him, but that doesn't mean he won't come to know. So it's best if you chose between Konoha and Nami. Masaru left Inari behind with that ultimatum. He summoned Kaze and rode back to the Land of Fire. Meanwhile, Inari was going through an agonizing inner turmoil as he stared at his lover's photograph. Route Otafukagai Base. Tsubasa was standing with his tanto out, and covered in crimson chakra which formed silhouette of a fox with 2 tails. Calm and composed, he was surrounded by 5 shadow clones also using Kyuubi's chakra. They attacked at once, each trying to grab Tsubasa with claws made from Kyuubi's chakra. Tsubasa waited till the arms got close. He jumped high at the last moment and threw multiple wind blades that were red from Kyuubi's chakra. The clones just swatted them away as one used this moment to sunshine behind Tsubasa, ready to slash him with lightning-charged tanto, but Tsubasa swatted it with his tail, causing the clone to puff before even hitting the walls. When Tsubasa about to land, the remaining clones attacked with a barrage of kunais propelled by wind chakra and tagged with explosive tags. Tsubasa reacted swiftly by swatting the kunais back at the clones with his tails. Before the clones could react, the kunais exploded, covering them in smoke. As soon as Tsubasa landed, a clone emerged from the smoke and dashed towards him with its lightning-charged tanto. Tsubasa charged towards the clone swung its blade, but Tsubasa ducked under and slashed at it, forcing it to cartwheel over his blade. The clone tried stabbing Tsubasa, but Tsubasa parried it, and this led to a series of intense swordplay. The girl is watching you, Kyuubi mused from his cage, referring to Hinata Hyuga, who was watching Tsubasa train from behind a doorway at a safe distance. I know, Tsubasa replied as he parried a strike. Not concerned about a ninja yet to prove her affiliation to Root finding out about your abilities. For all you know, she could be the old monkey Kage's little spy, Kyuubi mocked. Danzo-sama would see through her, Tsubasa rebutted as he blocked a strike. Will you lend me another tail now? How about another hand instead? Just then a chakra claw emerged from Tsubasa's abdomen and grabbed the clone, crushing it. See, you don't need a third tail. Tsubasa took in some breaths before making 3 cubified clones. Excuse me. Tsubasa and his clones turned to Hinata, causing her to flinch. Your shoulder is cut. Tsubasa checked his shoulder and found it bleeding. Thank you, Tsubasa replied before taking a stance. Wait. Tsubasa turned to her, causing her to flinch again. Shouldn't you rest? She stammered out. I have self-healing powers, and even if I didn't, I won't have that time to rest on the battlefield, he replied. Why do you fight for those horrible people? She asked. Don't you have a family or a friends? No, and in Root neither matter. Oh. Tsubasa faced the cubified clones again, his cut completely healed. Just then the clones lost their chakra cloak and puffed away, confusing Tsubasa and Hinata. Yo, kiddos! Masaru greeted them, followed by Kenshin and Hikari. Yet Tsubasa, change of plans, we're going to my base. Tsubasa marched of the training ground as his chakra cloak dispersed, followed by Masaru. I'll take my leave, Hikari-san, Kenshin told Hikari, who nodded and then caught up with Masaru, who was waiting in the corridor. They walked towards the exit together. Any reason you didn't leave with the others? Masaru asked. Why didn't you report Inari to Danzo-sama? What makes you believe Inari will stay en route? Kenshin asked. Inari has been a loyal soldier for us, Masaru reasoned. Look, I really respect Danzo-sama's law, but why lose a good soldier over a small mistake? Danzo-sama wouldn't see it that way, Kenshin rebutted. Sometimes I doubt your loyalty to Root. He won't leave, before Kenshin could counter, and if does I'll kill him with my own hands. And if you don't then I will slay him, and then you, Kenshin warned, and Masaru nodded in reply. They reached the exit where Tsubasa was waiting for Masaru. They summoned their falcons and flew off in different directions. At the same time in the training ground, Hikari was with Hinata. Well? Have you thought about it? Hikari asked harshly, making Hinata flinch. It's not like I have a choice, do I? Hinata replied, as Hikari raised an eyebrow. Well, then let's continue with your training. Hikari slid into a stance and Hinata took hers, waiting for the other to charge. 4 years later, Konoha Hokage's office. It has been 4 years since the disappearance of Hinata Hyuga, and these 4 years have gone without any major incidents, though a cold tension loomed at the borders and within. It was just 8 in the morning. Kushina had just returned from her mission and just had to report to Hiruzen before returning to her flat. Just as she reached the door, it opened and Hayashi and his wife exited the office. The couple greeted her with a nod before taking their leave. She entered the office to see Hiruzen smoking his pipe. An Anbu wearing outer mask stood next to him silently. Good morning, Kushina-chan. How was your mission? Hiruzen greeted. Good morning, Hokage-sama, Kushina greeted back. It was another wild goose chase. All this office work really stresses me out, Hiruzen replied with a tired smile. Hayashi-kun and Hinamori-chan visited again asking for any updates on Hinata-chan. I had to disappoint them again. Hiruzen sighed. Anyways, I know you must be tired from your recent mission, but there is an important matter that needs your attention. Kushina nodded in reply. Recently the Fire Lord sent me reports of children going missing all over Fire, especially from orphanages, and has requested deep investigation into the matter. I believe these unsolved disappearances, or rather kidnapping cases, are related, even to those of Konoha, especially Hinata-chan's. Kidnappings at orphanages mainly involve adoptions by persons who don't exist. I have already sent Anbu teams to various orphanages of Fire, where these kidnappings are commonplace. I want you to investigate the orphanages of the Nakatamura province, starting with the one at Shinja Town. This mission is classified S. You may rest now and then leave at dusk. Kushina nodded, then wore her fox mask. Do you want anyone on your team this time? Hiruzen asked. No thank you, she replied before leaving. Route base near Valley of End. Danzo was meditating, on his mat in a room dimly lit by sunlight that flowed in between the curtains. Suddenly a Root ninja appeared beside him, bent on his knees as Danzo opened his eyes. Torian report. Danzo ordered. Most ANBU teams sent by Sandaime-sama were unable to find the connection between Root and disappearance of children, as our ninjas were able to cover up evidence and threaten witnesses, except for 2 ANBU teams who were dealt with. However, Mole reported that an hour ago Sandaime-sama assigned Kushina Uzumaki to investigate the orphanages of Nakatamura province, starting with Shinja Town. She is expected to leave at dusk. Torian reported. I see, Danzo whispered, then he jotted down something on a scroll before passing it to the agent. Torian briefed them. And tell them Hiruzen must not find out about Root at all costs. Torian nodded before vanishing into thin air, leaving Danzo to his meditation. Shinja Orphanage. The Shinja Orphanage was also a church slightly isolated from Shinja Town, located a few kilometers away from the town into wilderness. The children played with a ball in the backyard as a few nuns watched over them. As they were playing, one of them kicked the ball too hard and it shot towards the fence. A boy ran to get the ball, but stopped when he saw the ball stop at the feet of a young girl with long red hair. Oi girlie! Pass the ball! The boy yelled. Conan, be polite! A nun scolded him. Please, Conan added as the girl passed the ball to him. Are you lost, my child? The nun asked the girl. The girl nodded in reply. I am Sarah, and what is your name, dear? Neru, she replied. Well, you must be hungry. Why don't you have breakfast with us? Sarah offered, leading Neru and other children to the dining hall. Sarah and the other nuns went to kitchen to prepare the breakfast. Neru pulled out a few photos of some children. Infiltration successful. Nothing suspicious found yet, she thought to herself. I should ask the eldest child around. She glanced at every child present till her violet eyes stopped at Conan, who was sitting alone. He seems old enough to remember details. She walked up to his desk and sat in front of him. Hey Conan, Conan turned to Neru in a questioning manner. I was wondering if you know these guys. Neru pulled out photographs of 5 children. Wow, you've met these guys? Conan prompted out loud, but Neru shushed him. So do you know where they are and how are they doing? Conan asked with a broad smile. Unfortunately not, I was hoping you knew, Naru replied, receiving a sad sigh from Conan. Last time I saw them they were taken in by some weird people. Can you describe them? Well, Jin and I, Yukine, Haru and I, Chris and some other kids were taken by this lady with pearly eyes and jet black hair. She comes every year or two. Sounds like a hyuga, Nara noted to herself. But, Reizo and I was taken in by this old man with one eye and a cross scar on his chin. He had a walking stick and he was wrapped in so many bandages that he looked like a mummy. This guy came about 8 years ago. Nara's eyes widened at this claim. She pulled a sketchbook out of nowhere and sketched Danzo before showing it to Conan. Yeah. That's the guy, Conan exclaimed. Who are you talking about? Sarah chirped from kitchen. That mummy guy, Conan replied. Shut up, Nara murmured angrily. Before Sarah could ask anything else, a nun came running to her and whispered something in her ears. Sarah nodded and the two nuns rushed out. Nara got up from her table and followed them secretly. She saw the nuns go to the prayer hall. She hid behind a door and peeked to see the nuns talking to two ninjas wearing black hooded overcoats and animal masks. Anbu? No, wait. Sandaime only sent me here, so these must be Danzo's men, Nara thought to herself. Shinobi-san, we received your notification, but I'm afraid no one came from Konoha, Sarah explained. Are you sure, Sarah-san? Because our intel said an Anbu would come from Konoha, one the shinobis inquired, receiving a nod from Sarah. So Sandaime has moles in his office. Why am I not surprised? Nara sighed to herself. Are you telling the truth? The other one inquired. For all we know, you may have already informed Sandaime-sama. No, we are telling the truth, the other nun mumbled quickly. Nun, you better be telling the truth, because that will be best for both you and the orphanage, the root agent threatened. Just then Naru entered the room, alerting the occupants of her presence. What are you doing here, kid? The root agents asked, drawing their tantos. Naru stared passively at them, then said, I am the one who'll be asking. She puffed into smoke and chakra chains emerged from the smoke, striking the nines on the chest and abdomen. The chains, though pierced them, didn't injure them, but the root agents felt a huge chakra drain on their bodies. The smoke cleared, revealing an adult redhead in ANB uniform and a fox mask, shocking everyone. Kushina Uzumaki! Exclaimed the root agents together. It seems Root doesn't teach manners, Kushina retorted before turning to the nuns. Daimyo-sama suspected foul play by people with influence, and people in charge of orphanages for disappearance of children all over Land of Fire. I could have interrogated directly, but I doubted that would have helped, so I disguised myself as a child and asked other children as well. The nuns looked down in shame. We would never allow this to happen if we could only help ourselves, but we were helpless, Sarah explained herself. 8 years ago, Danzo Shimura came to this orphanage. He said he would take some recruits for his root program every year or two. Sister Arisa, who was the matron, then protested, saying she would report him. That monster just cut her throat, Sarah cursed as the other nun broke down crying. He threatened us, saying he had support from higher places and that he would burn the orphanage and take all the orphans if we didn't listen. Sure enough, the world forgot who Sister Arisa was. Danzo won't cause any more trouble once I report him, Kushina reassured, but just then her senses kicked in. She drew her katana in time to parry a rain of kunais that burst through the roof. As she was parrying the kunais, a hissing sound alerted her, and she leapt for the nuns in time as an explosion and smoke engulfed the prayer hall. When the smoke cleared, Kushina was shielding the nuns who had lost consciousness. She stood up and turned around to see a root ninja standing at the main entrance to the church. The ninja had a hooded overcoat and a fox mask. Going by his height, he was probably around 12. I sensed him just seconds before the attack. Did he fool my sensory ability, or is he just that fast? Kushina asked herself. She glanced at the root ninjas who had attacked earlier. He attacked without care for even his comrades. Though they are just unconscious, they could have been killed. This boy is vicious. Root Base Valley of End. Danzo was still meditating when Masaru rushed into the room and stood in front of him, seemingly agitated. Is it true that you sent Tsubasa to take on Uzumaki? Kushina, Masaru demanded. And what of it? Danzo retorted calmly, leaking killing intent to remind Masaru who the leader was, yet Masaru seemed unaffected. Tsubasa is strong, but Kushina is his mother. Besides being the previous Jinchuriki, she is a very skilled kunoichi, especially when it comes to sealing arts, Masaru ranted. A perfect opponent to test Konoha's mighty weapon, Danzo commented. And might I add that Tsubasa knows little about sealing, thanks to your orders. A perfect position to test how he overcomes this difficulty. If Kushina wins and realizes Tsubasa is her son Naruto, Root will bear a heavy price for it. By now Danzo had enough of Masaru's rant. He stood up and met Masaru's amber eyes with a glare. Tsubasa has been trained by the finest of Root, mostly by you, Masaru. You should have some faith in him, Danzo reproached Masaru, who nodded, having calmed down a bit. Konoha Hokage's office. Hiruzen took a puff from his pipe as he glanced at each ANBU assembled before him with disappointment. A mission from Daimyo-sama himself. Children disappear from all over the land of fire, and my best soldiers tell me they have found nothing. Hiruzen made his disappointment known. 5 teams have yet to report Hokage-sama. Maybe they found something, Otter reassured. I hope so, Hiruzen sighed. Just then the door banged open. Everyone took arms and turned around to find a badly injured ANBU wearing Bear mask. Bear, he stumbled as Otter caught him while another worked on his injuries. Hiruzen bent next to Bear, who was trying to stay conscious. Who did this to you? Hiruzen demanded, promising pain to the culprits, but the reply left everyone speechless. Root, Bear huffed before passing out. Back at Shinja Orphanage. Kushina took a stance, her katana poised to strike the Root ninja. Tsubasa in reply slipped a wakizashi from his right sleeve and took a defensive stance. The more Kushina stared at her adversary, the more her goosebumps rose, and for good reasons. His chakra is Kage level. Moreover, I see 2 auras in this, one cold as ice and the other outright evil, yet both seem familiar somehow. Just who are you? Back at Shinja Orphanage. Kushina took a stance, her katana poised to strike the Root ninja. Tsubasa in reply slipped a wakizashi from his right sleeve and took a defensive stance. The more Kushina stared at her adversary, the more her goosebumps rose, and for good reasons. His chakra is Kage level. Moreover, I see 2 auras in this boy, one cold as ice and the other outright evil, yet both seem familiar somehow. Just who are you? Another question snapped her out of her goosebumps. What's going on here? Conan asked from the back door as a few more children cowered behind him. Conan, get out of here! Kushina warned. Seeing Kushina distracted, Tsubasa performed wind blade technique and multiple wind blades rushed towards Kushina, but Kushina charged her katana with fire chakra and deflected all the blades. Kushina adjusted her fox mask and glared at Tsubasa, mentally swearing to punch through his fox mask, before she turned back to see Conan and the children still standing at the door. Conan! Get the nuns and all the children away from here. Now! Kushina ordered before she dashed at Tsubasa and swung her blade, but Tsubasa parried and tried to stab Kushina, but she ducked and tried stabbing Tsubasa, but he blocked, and soon they were caught in an intense swordplay. By this time Conan had dragged the nuns out of the battlefield with help of his reluctant friends while Kushina and Tsubasa fought. Tired of the stalemate, Kushina performed a downward slash as Tsubasa prepared to block. Kushina cleverly charged her katana with lightning chakra at the very last moment, hoping to cut through the wakizashi and injure Tsubasa, but Tsubasa reacted swiftly by charging his own blade with wind chakra as soon as they connected, blocking the katana. Kushina didn't let her surprise show as she summoned a kunai in her left hand and slashed sideways, but Tsubasa ducked under and slashed at her legs, forcing Kushina to front flip over Tsubasa and create some distance between them, but then her senses kicked in, and she did a 360 slash, slicing Tsubasa's shadow clones that emerged from the ground. Kushina turned left to see another clone of Tsubasa throwing multiple shurikens and kunais at her. She reacted immediately, lifting a bench nearby, strengthened it with chakra and blocked them all, but a hissing sound made her aware of the explosive tags tagged to them, so she swung the explosive embedded bench back at the clone, so fast that the clone was unable to dodge and exploded with the bench. The explosion caused benches nearby to catch fire quickly, slowly fogging the entire room with smoke and ash as the fire spread to other furnitures. Both Tsubasa and Kushina leapt through the ceiling, not willing to breathe smoke. This mission was only supposed to be about finding some kidnappers, reporting to the old Hokage, and returning to finding and killing Orochimaru, yet I'm here fighting some fucking super ninja, Kushina fumed as she burst through the ceiling. She is an excellent sensor, Tsubasa analyzed as he burst through the ceiling. No matter how fast I move, Kushina is always be able to sense my chakra at the last moment. How amusing, Kyuubi mused from confines of Tsubasa's mind as Tsubasa created a shadow clone midair. What's so amusing? Tsubasa asked as he focused his chakra to attack. You'll find out soon enough, Kyuubi assured. Tsubasa ignored Kyuubi and performed a fire dragon bullet jutsu, powered by his clone's wind style. Great breakthrough just as they were about to land. The combo rushed at Kushina in full speed, but when it reached her, she smirked and raised a hand, and the combo just dissolved in thin air. What, you thought Uzumakis can only create chains? Then look down, Kushina pointed downwards and Tsubasa felt the gravity increase, forcing him to kneel as a ceiling pattern glowed bright blue. He looked up to see Kushina rushing at him. She must have placed the seal at the same time as she was absorbing my attack, Tsubasa realized as he focused his chakra. Kushina raised her sword ready to strike when Tsubasa looked up and she noticed his eyes blazing blue, and just then Tsubasa's chakra burst like hot blue flames that burnt the seal on the floor and pushed Kushina back into a wall, hurting her back. Impossible! That chakra feels Uzumaki! Kushina exclaimed but had to raise her hands and form a chakra vortex to absorb a swift rain of lightning shots. Who are you? Are you an Uzumaki? Kushina asked, but Tsubasa didn't reply, instead firing a barrage of lightning shots which Kushina absorbed. She is good. Every time I attack her when she's distracted she reacts quickly. Moreover, she may have rigged this place with seals, Tsubasa analyzed. Just what do you think you are doing, brat? Kyuubi reprimanded. Don't you know what Kushina can do? She can absorb chakra and heal, Tsubasa replied. And you are feeding the matriarch all your chakra. Moreover, whatever damage you may have caused will be healed thanks to your kind donations, Kyuubi rebuffed. It'd be more helpful if you advised me on how to kill her, Tsubasa countered. Whatever, Kyuubi grunted. Kushina had had enough of blocking the lightning shots. Though the pain on her back was gone, the force behind the lightning shots kept her down. Uzumaki or not, this boy is out to kill me. I may have to kill him after all, Kushina sighed as she summoned a three-pronged kunai and threw it to left and disappeared in a red flash. Before Tsubasa could comprehend, the room was littered with hundreds of three-pronged kunais. Tsubasa ducked in time to dodge a Rasengan. Then he rolled over to dodge another that hit the ground. When he stood up he felt his cloak heat up and he removed it in time as his cloak burst in flames. Just then he saw a red flash and jumped to dodge a swipe, but a flash behind him slashed his back. Soon he saw multiple flashes followed by cuts forming all over his body despite his best attempts at dodging them. Ready to knock him out, Kushina flashed behind Tsubasa and thrust the katana's hilt at his head, but instead hit a half-burnt bench which replaced Tsubasa, and before she could comprehend, a dragon made of lightning chakra shot through the roof and hit her like a bullet train and propelled her very high. That fucking hurt. Kushina cursed as her abdomen was burnt by the impact and shot pain all over her body. Still ascending, she weakly glared into the glowing blue eyes of the lightning dragon which was catching up to her. The dragon opened its jaws when it got close, ready to devour her, but Kushina flashed into red light as soon as it snapped its jaws close. Kushina landed at the ledge of the church's roof. She removed her mask and coughed some blood. She tried sitting up, but before she could, she found herself floating in a sphere of water. She turned around to see Tsubasa holding his left hand towards her at a distance as the wind brushed his shoulder-length blonde hair. All his wounds healed and his clones were destroying all the three-pronged kunais with lightning-charged wakizashi. Kushina tried absorbing chakra from the water prison technique, but instead felt her own being absorbed swiftly as she was losing her breath and blood to the water prison. He is an Uzumaki after all, Kushina concluded as she felt her strength leaving her. Well done, brat. Kyuubi complimented you, caught her off guard and attacked faster than she could react. Now all that's left is to finish her. She's almost dead, Tsubasa replied as he maintained the water prison and absorbed Kushina's chakra. Brat. When fighting Kushina almost isn't enough, Kyuubi remarked as if expecting the half-dead Uzumaki to snap and burn the place down any time around. I must say, I had an easier time fighting the Jinchuriki of Hachibi, Kushina sighed. Looks like I have to use that technique. What's happening? Tsubasa wondered as Kushina floated up straight and her chakra surged. Gate of opening, open! Kushina opened the first gate as her wounds healed faster. Gate of healing, open! All her wounds were healed. She's opening the 8 gates of chakra. Every gate she releases will increase her chakra, strength, speed and stamina, Tsubasa realized. Gate of life, open. The water prison started boiling due to excessive chakra released by Kushina. Tsubasa raised his right hand which sparked with electricity. Lightning style, lightning strike. Tsubasa released a streak of lightning at the prison hoping to electrocute Kushina. The attack hit but didn't affect Kushina. Gate of pain, open. The prison glowed blue before blasting. Tsubasa barely had enough time to block before he was sent flying off the roof and into the wilderness close by. He managed to right himself mid-air and bounced off a tree trunk when the trunk shattered. He crossed his arms in time to be hit by Kushina as he was sent into a clearing, bouncing several times. He got up and leapt to right to dodge another punch that made a crater on the ground he was standing on, but not the kick which sent him crashing into a tree. He felt bruises all over his body and his mask was on the brink of shattering. My, having a hard time, I see Kyuubi taunted from his confines. This is the first time I've seen you take interest in any of my battles, Tsubasa noted as he ducked in time to let the tree take the brunt of Kushina's punch. Let's just say, Tsubasa's blue eyes bled crimson, causing Kushina to flinch. I want to say hi. Crimson chakra burst from Tsubasa like fire, literally heating the atmosphere, while a silhouette of a fox grinning formed over Tsubasa, glaring at a shivering Kushina with heavy bloodlust. Then the head crashed into Kushina, pushing her through a few trees and into a clearing. Impossible! He has Kyuubi's chakra, Kushina grunted while she maintained her fourth gate state. But Kyuubi was killed along with Naruto. Kushina got on her feet as she stared at Tsubasa. Unless Naruto never died. Kushina's eyes widened in realization. Tsubasa turned to her, engulfed in crimson chakra shaped like a fox with three tails, as his eyes blazed crimson and pupils turned into slits. His fox mask crumbled away in air, revealing his face. Kushina had no doubt Tsubasa was Naruto, despite his whisker birthmarks being thickened, giving him a ferocious look. Naruto? Kushina gasped, which Tsubasa heard despite the distance thanks to his heightened senses, but didn't react. The only emotions Kushina felt from him were Kyuubi's bloodlust from Tsubasa's crimson eyes. Naruto! Kushina cried out, but her joy was cut short when Tsubasa blurred right in her face, forcing her to sushin away in time to dodge a vicious swipe. Naruto, why are you attacking me? Don't you know me? Kushina asked. Tsubasa turned to her with a stoic curiosity. Who is this Naruto that you keep calling? Tsubasa asked. Kushina's eyes widened for a second before she realized that Naruto couldn't possibly remember. Of course you wouldn't remember, you've been en route for so long. Naruto is your real name, and you are my son, Kushina replied with a smile. Tsubasa stood still, processing the new information. I guess it makes sense. There aren't too many Uzumakis in Konoha, and who else would the fourth Hokage choose other than his son, who is said to be dead, Tsubasa reasoned. Moreover, I look nothing like the typical Uzumaki, but I resemble the fourth Hokage more than anyone else does and have abilities of an Uzumaki. There is little room for doubt that I am your son. Kushina smiled, having convinced her son of his real identity. I knew you would understand. Kushina was interrupted by a powerful punch which sent her flying. Her son dashed close to her, hopping over the tree line to keep up with the shocked Kushina. However, as of now, I am Tsubasa and you are a threat to Root, Tsubasa concluded as he jumped above Kushina and pummeled her into the ground. Kushina stood up from the newly formed crater and tried to reason with Tsubasa. Naruto, we don't have to fight. But Tsubasa replied with a large Kyuubi chakra fist into Kushina, which crushed her and dug deeper into the crater. Tsubasa's chakra tail held onto treetops, keeping him airborne as he kept pounding Kushina with large chakra fists. Under Kyuubi's chakra fist, for the first time in 12 years, Kushina felt like crying. This can't be happening, but she managed to keep herself together. No, it's Danzo. He brainwashed Naruto into becoming a killing machine. Kushina grit her teeth, and just as Tsubasa sent another punch, Kushina rolled over and released golden chakra chains from her back and wrist. The chakra chains rushed at Tsubasa, about to wrap him, when the chains were intercepted by Tsubasa's own version. Tsubasa's chakra chains were made from Kyuubi's chakra, making them thicker, red in color. They had fox for spearheads. Kyuubi's chakra chains bit into Kushina's chakra chains, stopping them in their tracks. Before Kushina could react, another cubified chakra chain burst from Tsubasa's abdomen and bound Kushina instantly. Kushina's chakra chains dispersed, allowing Tsubasa's to wrap around her. Kushina struggled against the chains, but to no avail. The chains had blocked her chakra, which meant she couldn't use any jutsu, and the chains were too strong to be broken by brute strength. Tsubasa pulled out his katana and dropped down at Kushina, ready to slice her head off. This was all just too much for Kushina. The son she had mourned for 12 years was alive, but didn't recognize her, and was about to slay her. Stop! Kushina shrieked with closed eyes as Tsubasa swung his blade, but the blade never reached her neck. Kushina opened her eyes to find the chakra chains holding her gone, and so was Tsubasa. Did someone call for help? A voice croaked. Kushina turned left to see Tsubasa pinned down by someone in red overcoat and long white hair. Fear not, the defender of the maidens in distress, hearing whose name the ladies swoon and the villains flee in fear. I, Jiraiya the Toad Sage, am here. Jiraiya-sensei? Kushina whispered. How did you get here? Tsubasa groaned. How did you sneak up on me? Jiraiya pulled out a scroll and rolled it open, letting 2 Root agents out, revealing them as the same ones who attacked the orphanage earlier. I suppose you were expecting them to take care of the others. I was just passing through the town when I see these guys stalking some kids. The kids told there was a fight going on here, so I came to check it out. As for how I snuck up on you, I'll tell you some other time, Jiraiya replied with a wink and a shit-eating grin. Kushina rushed to Tsubasa. Jiraiya-sensei, he is. I know. Jiraiya's expression became softer. To think I would see Naruto again, well and all grown up. I don't know you, Tsubasa replied, as he struggled against Jiraiya's hold. It's useless, Jiraiya sighed and lifted Tsubasa's shirt to reveal a seal around Kyuubi's seal. To be able to fight Kushina, you were indeed taught well, but you weren't taught everything, Jiraiya told Tsubasa. Then Jiraiya applied more pressure to the seal and made Tsubasa faint. Kushina knelt near Tsubasa, making sure he was fine as Jiraiya got up and resealed the other root needs. Then he turned to Kushina and asked, You okay? You were taking some heavy hits when I came. Yeah, I still have my fourth gate activated. Let's go then. We have lots to do, and one crippled old man to murder, Jiraiya ordered. Kushina nodded, taking Tsubasa over her shoulder, then they left the place. Root base near Valley of End. Masaru, Torian, Fu and some other root agents assembled in Danzo's dimly lit room expecting orders or reactions from Danzo on the latest report brought by Torian, but Danzo remained impassive. So what now? Masaru asked the question that had been bothering everyone. What do you want to do? Danzo asked the agents, taking them by surprise. Danzo-sama, if I may, I can still catch up to Jiraiya and Kushina and retrieve Tsubasa, Masaru suggested, the only one expecting Danzo to explode any time. They are still quite far from Konoha. And? Danzo asked, strangely calm. We can still get rid of the witnesses and evidence. Hokage only knows that we exist but still needs proof, Fu added. And then what? Danzo asked again. And then we lay low till the Hokage. Fu paused when Danzo stood up and glared at him. Till the monkey lowers his guard, then we become active again, come under Hiruzen's surveillance, and then hide in our holes again, like rats. Danzo spat every word like venom. Are we rats? Tell me if you are we rats? Fu and other root agents lowered their heads as Danzo rebuked them. Danzo walked towards the door, and before walking out he faced the root agents with authority and said, Masaru, Torian, call the others. No more hiding, it's time Root sees the light. Then Danzo left the agents disturbed by what he was implying. Konoha Hokage's office. Dead silence was all that could be heard despite the assembly at Sandame's office as the Sandame Hokage analyzed each shinobi assembled before him. These shinobis included some of the commanders of Konoha's ninja force. They were Okami the Anbu commander, Shikaku Nara the Jounin commander, Ibiki Marino the head of torture and interrogation, and Fugaku Uchiha the head of Konoha police. Kotetsu Higane from the Konoha barrier team, Hyuga Hayashi, Shibi Aburame, Tsuminizuka and the Hokage's advisors Koharu Yuditane and Hamura Mitokado were also present. Reassured that they were paying their utmost attention, Hiruzen decided to brief them. This week Daimyo-sama had asked Konoha to investigate the case of children, especially orphans, disappearing all over Land of Fire. Today we learned that the cause was none other than Root, Hiruzen revealed, earning gasps from those present. As you're all aware, Root used to serve under Konoha with Danzo as its head till it was disbanded and outlawed after the Third Shinobi War. But now we know Danzo has been running Root despite the ban. Hiruzen paused to let the information sink and then continued, I can't afford to have an organization that turns children into machines running independently right under Konoha's nose. In order to deal with this threat we need to arrest Danzo, find his hideouts and his subordinates. Hokage-sama, are you giving Danzo a trial? Koharu asked, almost protesting. And why wouldn't I do that? We only know Danzo has been running Root but have no concrete proof against him, and knowing him he will make sure that we never do. Even if we manage to convict him, a public execution of someone as politically important as Danzo will send a negative message to our ranks, that they cannot trust the higher-ups. It'd be more convenient to just do away with him. Moreover, from what we know of Root, the shinobis of Roots are little more than drones with Danzo the sole brain and the one holding the remote control. If we slay him, Root will fall apart on its own, Hamura added to Koharu's argument. My honorable advisors, you have put forward some valid arguments, but they are flawed. Firstly, we don't know where Danzo is as of now. How many people has he got serving him? How many bases does he run? Then, we can only assume that Danzo is the only one in charge, but Danzo is an old man and very much mortal. He must have groomed someone to be his heir to Root by now. Then there is the possibility of Danzo's men hiding among our ranks. How else did Danzo know about the mission given by Daimyo? And I am very sure he has friends in some good places aiding him and his organization, so even if we shoot the old Warhawk down, it won't be the end of his nesting grounds. To put an end to Root, we need to find and capture all of Root's bases and soldiers before we deal with Danzo. But we must deal with Danzo by exposing him before Konoha and through a fair trial so that we can make an example out of him for all those fanatics like himself who think they are above the law, above Konoha, above humanity, and above God. Everyone nodded in agreement. First of all, we need to upgrade Konoha's security. Uchiha-san, I want Konoha police to patrol every street and corner of Konoha and assist Anbu Black Ops in investigating every possible route hideout, Okami-san, and I shall personally assign Anbu teams for this purpose. Then we also need to arrest everyone in close contact with Danzo. Konoha police will arrest the ones in and close to Konoha while Anbu will arrest the ones outside Konoha. Torture and Information Department will interrogate Danzo's open supporters and known contacts within and outside Konoha and extract every piece of relevant information from them by every means possible. Nara-san, instead of the usual 2 Chunin guards at the gates, I want a team of Chunin guards lead by 1 Jounin at each gates. No one will enter unregistered or unchecked. I also want some teams to scout the Konoha forest. Konoha barrier team, you shall strictly monitor the sensory barrier. Not a bird should fly over us without us knowing. Kotetsu nodded. We also need to search for bases outside Konoha. We don't know exactly where to look, but I believe reinvestigating the case of missing children of fire will lead us there. For this task I want the Inuzuka, the Aburame and the Hyuga clans to coordinate with Anbu and Jounin teams. And all of you must order your teams that if they find the bases, do not attack immediately. Request and wait for the backup to arrive, and if they find Danzo, try to arrest him alive, but if that is not possible, bring me his head. Hokage-sama, what of the borders of Hai no Kuni? Surely, we're not assuming Danzo will not escape from this country? Hamura raised his concern. Your concern is genuine, Hamura, but it has already been taken care of, Hiruzen explained. Daimyo-sama has sealed all exit routes, mountain passes and ports of the country with his personal forces, and I have already sent many shinobis to join Daimyo-sama's forces on his request. The traitor won't be able to leave the country. As you say, Hokage-sama, the Anbu commander asked, but what about the moles in our ranks? The mission given by Daimyo-sama was only known to you, me, and the Anbu officers involved. Someone must have alerted Danzo about the mission. And there is no telling how many double agents there are in Konoha's forces. It's not like we can interrogate all our shinobis to know which ones are loyal to us and who the traitors are, Ibiki stated. As a matter of fact, we'll just have to wait for them to slip up. I don't see why not. If our soldiers have nothing to hide, they shouldn't, Okami downplayed Ibiki's concern. With all due respect, Commander-sama, not every shinobi of Konoha is an Anbu officer, and not everyone will take kindly to being under their Hokage's suspicion or the intelligence division knowing their most private details. Doing something this hasty could escalate unwanted tensions within our forces, Fugaku pointed out, and others agreed. There must be something we can do, the Anbu commander sighed. We are already arresting Danzo's identified supporters and contacts. They should have some info en route and the double agents, Ibiki consoled. We can do more, like identifying areas frequently visited by Danzo, keep people who met him and his supporters frequently under our surveillance, and check records to identify shinobis with suspicious behavior. I would also place guards along Konoha's sewer system. And the old route bases, we should definitely investigate those, Shikaku suggested. Others were nodding convinced with his idea, but Hamura wasn't so convinced. That will require a lot of manpower. And the sewers, most of them are too narrow for any human to fit in. Koharu dismissed the idea. Do you have a better plan? The Hokage asked. No one answered. Then we stick with Jounin commander's idea. The Hokage turned to Shikaku. You will prepare Jounin squads to secure the underground sewer systems. Then to Fugaku. You will prepare a squad to investigate the old route base. Then to everyone. I will personally check records of every shinobi to check for double agents. Clear? Yes, Hokage-sama. Everyone saluted. Then get to work. And everyone left the office. Between Naka Valley and Konoha Forest. The normally quiet forest was put into turmoil as Kushina and Jiraiya dashed through the forest, scaring every bird, deer, and whatnot as each cursed them in their own language. But Kushina could care less. As far as she was concerned, she had to get her son to Konoha as soon as possible. Jiraiya also wanted to reach Konoha quickly, but he was getting concerned about the tracks they were leaving, so he decided to make his concerns known. So after taking a deep breath and a silent prayer, Jiraiya said, Kushina, we need to slow down. Kushina didn't react, as she continued with her free run, taking care not to drop Naruto, who remained unconscious over her shoulder. Jiraiya sighed, though he actually expected a much worse reaction from her. Kushina, we're leaving too much tracks, Jiraiya insisted. Kushina looked behind and glared at Jiraiya, then looked ahead as they continued their free run. Seriously, even a genin can track us at this rate, Jiraiya complained for the umpteenth time, but Kushina didn't pay him any heed as they continued their free run. Kushina, now you're just being outright unprofessional, Jiraiya warned as his patience wore thin. Kushina stopped on a branch, ending their free run. Did I push my luck? Jiraiya wondered. No, even if she's angry, she has to be reasonable. Jiraiya readied himself as Kushina reached into her kunai pouch. Jiraiya slipped a pair of kunais from his gauntlets. Relax, old man, I'm not going for your perverted balls, Kushina assured as she pulled out a three-pronged kunai. I'm just speeding things up, so just hold my hand, and remember just a hand. Thanks for the compliment, Jiraiya grinned, then held Kushina's hand. Kushina threw the kunai far ahead, like half a kilometer, and they flashed into another part of the forest. She repeated the process as they reached closer and closer to Konoha. So how come we didn't do this earlier? Didn't occur to me earlier, Kushina shrugged. Oh. And they reached the north gate of Konoha in a minute, passing by a heavy security at the gate. Konoha Hokage's office. What else could go wrong? Hiruzen thought to himself as he puffed his worries through his pipe waiting for the records to arrive, when Kushina and Jiraiya entered with a boy he didn't recognize at first. The explanations didn't take too long. While on the bright side Kushina had her son back and he now had some evidence against Danzo, the news of Minato's dead son being alive and serving under Root had heavy implications. Hiruzen looked at both Jiraiya and Kushina extremely serious. Are you sure of this? They both nodded, and Jiraiya explained, I know what you're thinking. How can this be the real Naruto if the baby that died 12 years ago was also confirmed as Naruto by medical reports? But this boy has Kyuubi sealed within himself, while Kyuubi's body should have been destroyed to reform ages later, unless Naruto never died in the first place. Jiraiya had a point. When a Jinchuriki dies, there are two things that can happen to a Bijuu. 1, it'll die. 2, traces of its chakra will survive, allowing it to reform ages later. When Naruto supposedly died, they assumed Kyuubi died along with him as they weren't able to find any trace of Kyuubi's chakra, but the Kyuubi being alive and sealed in the same seal that Yondaime placed spoke otherwise. This proves Naruto's status among the living, but that means that the baby 12 years ago was a fake, Hiruzen realized as he stared at a map of the world on one of his wall. But to achieve 100% DNA replication of anyone, I know of only one clan capable of this. He turned to Kushina and they were destroyed. Hiding an organization from us, kidnapping a baby but making it look like murder, and killing a squad of elite ninjas I call Anbu Black Ops. It seems Danzo has some talented human resources under him. Hiruzen shared his thoughts. Quite impressive for an underground organization, Jiraiya added his 2 cents, and someone as young as Naruto being able to fight Kushina, someone must have taught him very well. And the fact that Orochimaru admitted that he killed Naruto, he must have been or still is in some sort of alliance with Danzo. He might be the one who actually kidnapped Naruto, and then delivered him to Danzo for some sort of deal. Possible, but there's no point in pondering over those things. Right now we need to find Danzo and his hideouts. For that we must place Naruto and his comrades under Intelligence Division under S-rank security. Kushina was about to protest, but Hiruzen raised his hand. I understand your sentiments, but right now Naruto is an agent of Root and a threat. He even tried to kill you despite accepting the possibility of you being his mother, and I have no doubt he will try to return to Danzo. We can't allow Danzo to have Naruto back under his command. On the other hand, he and his comrades are perhaps the best lead we have. Hiruzen rationalized. Kushina seethed in anger but kept quiet, seeing Hiruzen's logic. Sensei, if you wish to interrogate Naruto, let me tell you he won't wake up before 2 days. I suggest we ask Inoichi Yamanaka to check Naruto and his comrades' memories while they are unconscious. Otter! Cat! The two Anbus appeared from the shadows. You two, along with Kushina, as Hiruzen wasn't willing to antagonize Kushina anymore, will escort Naruto to Intelligence Division and place him under S-rank security. I will send Inoichi Yamanaka to search Naruto's memory shortly. Kushina took Naruto over her shoulder as Otter and Cat escorted them to Intelligence Division, leaving Hiruzen alone with Jiraiya. Jiraiya, we may have strong proof that this boy is Naruto, but we still need absolute confirmation. For this purpose I want you to compare Naruto's seal to the one Minato used. I will have a medic do a DNA test on him and a DNA test on whatever remains of the baby that was buried under Naruto's name. Jiraiya wanted to protest, but the Sandaime would have none of it. This is a matter of national security. I will have no more discussion on this. Jiraiya nodded in understanding. As for the other 2 agents, send them to Ibiki. I will send someone to have a look. I will also consult with Hyuga-san on the lady that Kushina described. Fine, I will inform them of Kushina's return. Jiraiya nodded and left the office in Asushin. Hiruzen stared at the spot for some time, solemnly. Then he placed his hat on his desk and slapped his forehead. I just had to ask, didn't I? The Hokage sulked, running retirement plans through his head faster than the bullet train. Konoha Nanmin District. Shursui Uchiha was leading the squad investigating the old Root base. The squad mainly consisted of Uchihas but also had some shinobis affiliated to no clan. Fugaku had been recruiting clanless shinobis into Konoha police to match the deficit in manpower, but only non-clan shinobis, not willing to let go of the influence Uchihas held due to the department. The old base was located directly under the bustling district. This district didn't even exist 14 years ago. It was a forest called Nanmin Forest, under which once Root had operated till it was officially disbanded 16 years ago. Shui watched as one of his comrades dislodged the drain cover. Shui activated his Sharingan and put on a mask before entering. Others followed suit. Making sure everyone had entered, Shui pulled out an old map of the base and read it before leading his squad towards the base. The sewage system was based on underground passage formerly used by Root Neens, thus validating the accuracy of the old map. He stopped in front of a wall. Danielle! A bulky Uchiha came forward and pressed his hand against the wall. The wall melted like mud, revealing a steel door. Ogami! A short Uchiha stepped forward as Danielle made way. Ogami made a few quick hand signs, welding torch jutsu. A thin streak of blue flame appeared from his fingers. He sliced the door open like a cheese, revealing a dark room. Ogami entered first with his torch as his light source, revealing a corridor that led to many rooms. Ogami found a lever, seemingly the main switch. He pulled it up, switching on all the lights instantly. The lights are working fine, so is the air conditioning. Shui noted signs of the base still being used. Ogami dispersed his jutsu and Shui led them through the corridor, checking every room, till they reached the balcony, revealing many floors below them and a courtyard the size of Hyuga Estate below. Whoa! Shui worded the shared sentiment of his awestruck cousins and non-Uchiha comrades. Naruto's cell. This cell was under tight surveillance with Kushina, Cat and Otter standing guard inside, 20 Anbus in the corridor outside and 150 guarding the whole division, in addition to 100 ninjas that worked in the TNI division. The department was under heavy security due to Naruto, as there was a high possibility of Root trying to break out Naruto, or he himself escaping the place. Unconscious, unaware and shirtless, Tsubasa was currently hooked up to some sort of machinery by Information Division. This machine looked more like a guillotine with his neck and hands confined, only the execution blade was missing. Earlier a medic had come and taken some samples from Tsubasa, then Jiraiya came and took a picture of Tsubasa's seal before leaving quickly. Now they were waiting for Inoichi to arrive. I can't believe it! Inoichi entered the cell. It's true! Minato's son is really alive! And he looks just like him. Ahem. Otter coughed, turning Inoichi's attention to the task at hand. Oh yeah. Check Naruto's mind for useful memories. Inoichi recalled the mission given to him and got serious. He stood in front of Naruto and performed a few hand signs. Mind infiltration jutsu. He placed his palm on Tsubasa's forehead and entered Tsubasa's mindscape. Roar. Inoichi was immediately pushed out by Kyuubi's roar. The Kyuubi, it's interfering, Inoichi huffed out. Kushina checked Tsubasa's seal and applied pressure to Jiraiya's seal and turned to Inoichi. Try again. Inoichi nodded before going through the same set of hand signs. Mind infiltration jutsu. Inoichi infiltrated again, but this time he was punched out of Tsubasa's mindscape and fell on the floor. Now what? Kushina asked, irritated. He woke up, Inoichi pointed to Tsubasa. They all turned to Tsubasa to find him awake, his cold blue eyes scanning the cell and people around him till they stopped at Kushina, who was closest to him. Hey Naruto-kun, how are you feeling? Kushina asked, but stepped back when Tsubasa stood up and broke his hands free from the machine before he tore the machine off his neck and smashed it to ground, proving to his jailers that his six-packs were indeed a result of intense workout sessions. I guess that means never been better, Cat whispered to Otter. Those things don't come cheap, you know. Inoichi snarled, pointing at the debris. Tsubasa just cracked his fingers. A machinery not worth a single penny spent on it, Tsubasa remarked, which made Inoichi really mad as he stomped towards Tsubasa. You brat! That machine was a piece of art. It reduced the chakra needed for mind infiltration jutsu and increased the time frame by. Inoichi's rant was cut short when Otter held him back, noticing Tsubasa's fingers twitch, subtly biding time and waiting to grab something or someone. Keep your calm, Yamanaka-sama, Otter advised as he gazed at Tsubasa. Don't fall for his ploy. The Yamanaka gaped at Otter, not quite understanding the ploy. As for you, Naruto-san, I suggest you cooperate with us, for we have other methods. Tsubasa didn't bother answering. He stepped on a debris of the machine and crushed it below his foot. What, ripping it apart wasn't enough? Inoichi growled, but Otter got the message, not the giving up type, definitely an Uzumaki. Shut up, Inoichi. I'll pay for your stupid machine, Kushina argued on behalf of her son. It's not about Yamanaka-san, please, Otter warned Inoichi, glaring daggers. Inoichi obliged, and the attention was back towards their captive. Your bravery is commendable but futile, Otter spoke as he walked towards Tsubasa. We have collected enough evidence to convict Danzo of high treason. We have various supporters and contacts of Danzo under our custody who have confessed being in cahoots with him. Otter stopped right in front of Tsubasa. We also have your comrades under our custody. I am certain they can't Put up enough resistance in front of Ibiki-senpai. It won't be long before we find Danzo, but if you help us the Hokage may even pardon you. Otter offered his hand. Tsubasa stared at the hand then swatted away defiantly. I have nothing to say. Of course you don't, Otter muttered sarcastic as his eyes bled red and the Sharingan came to life, the tomos spinning wildly along the ring. Tsubasa tried to avert his eyes, shut his eyes or push Otter away, but couldn't as his body froze up unable to move. Tsubasa, still conscious, struggled against Otter's hypnosis but had nothing but sheer willpower to do so, but that wouldn't be enough with his chakra sealed and Kyuubi's blocked. Let me be of some help. When Otter was sure his hypnosis worked, he decided to interrogate Tsubasa. Where is Danzo? Tsubasa turned to Otter with dazed eyes and replied, I don't know. What? Otter was interrupted by a punch to his face that shattered his mask. The mask broke off, revealing a boy with creases below his Sharingan. Uchiha Itachi. I broke you out of his hypnosis, but Uchihas are masters of Genjutsu. You will have a better chance fighting him blindfolded, Kyuubi advised. Tsubasa took heed and shut his eyes before attacking Itachi. Itachi waited for Tsubasa to get close before sidestepping and kicking Tsubasa, but Tsubasa ducked under the kick and tried a sweep kick to trip Itachi, who jumped over. Some more Anbus entered the cell hearing a commotion. Naruto! Itachi! What do you think you're doing? Kushina screamed as Inoichi and Kat held her back, preventing her from getting involved. Let Gio. You can't get involved. The other Anbus attacked Tsubasa together, as Tsubasa waited for them to come. The first one that got close was punched thrice in his abdomen before being flung into a wall as blood seeped from his mouth. The second had her left arm twisted and Tanto snatched before being flung into the first one. The third, fourth, fifth, sixth, seventh, and eighth earned cuts all over their bodies before being flung into the heap. Just then Tsubasa felt a sharp blade against his throat. Drop your weapon, Itachi warned, pressing the blade harder. Tsubasa did as asked, but as soon as the blade hit the ground, Tsubasa grabbed Itachi's arm and flung him into the ground. Still holding on to the arm Itachi held his Tanto with, Tsubasa kicked Itachi's abdomen repeatedly to make him let go, but Itachi didn't. As Tsubasa kept kicking, Itachi grabbed his foot with his free hand and pushed Tsubasa off him. As soon as Tsubasa fell on the ground, Itachi lunged at him as Tsubasa got back up to intercept Itachi, but were prevented from clashing again when a chain made of chakra wrapped around each one's arm. They turned to find Kushina holding out chakra chains that restrained them, while Kat and Inoichi tended their mysteriously swollen cheeks. Enough, you two. Stand down this instant, Kushina ordered. Itachi was in no position to stand up to her with the chakra chain draining his chakra, but Tsubasa already had his chakra sealed. Tsubasa held the chakra chain binding him with both his arms and used his body weight and brute strength to pull Kushina off her feet and into swung her over Itachi and into a wall. Tsubasa's stunt surprised Kushina enough for her to let go of Itachi and Tsubasa. As soon as Kushina flew over him, Itachi dashed at Tsubasa. Tsubasa saw Itachi coming and picked up a Tanto lying down to brace for Itachi. As soon as Itachi got close, they both swung their blades. Metals rang, but their blades never met, blocked by kunais held by an Anbu in dog mask. My, quite a mess you boys have made here, the Anbu remarked as he held against the pressure from Itachi and Tsubasa. The Anbu pushed their blades away and broke them apart from each other. Kakashi, what are you doing here? Kushina hissed as she stood up. Kitsune-san, please call me Inu while I'm under the mask. I was sent here on duty by Hokage-sama, Kakashi replied before turning to Tsubasa. Naruto, I'm honestly more surprised by your ability to fight while your chakra is restrained than the fact that you're alive, but for all your skills even you must have realized that fighting your way out of a prison guarded by hundreds of Anbus is not an option. In fact, Otter-san here is enough to hold you here. Tsubasa sat down with his eyes still shut. A few more Anbus entered the cell and began helping their injured comrades. Others surrounded Tsubasa ready to strike at the slightest movement. Good, Kakashi turned to others. Alright, now I'd like to know how exactly did a 12-year-old kid cause an emergency with his chakra sealed? Everyone turned to the only sealing expert in the room, much to the Kushina's annoyance. Well, let's see. Kushina went in front of Tsubasa and analyzed his seal carefully as others waited for her report. Kushina was done within minutes and ready to report. There is nothing wrong with the seal. Then what gives? There is nothing wrong with the seal as such, but with the choice of seal in use. Others were confused. This seal only seals his chakra within his body and prevents him from accessing Kyuubi's chakra. This means he still has chakra running through his system but locked in his body. So, he can use taijutsu, but not ninjutsu and genjutsu, Kakashi remarked. Also, he still has a mental link to Kyuubi. That explains why neither mind transfer nor Itachi's hypnosis worked, Inoichi noted. Is there anything you can do about the seal? Itachi asked. Not really, Jiraiya placed the seal in a split-second reaction, but he placed it in perfect order and in perfect working condition. Adding any more seals could destabilize the seal holding Kyuubi. The only way to fix Jiraiya's seal is to remove the seal and replace it with another. Others were convinced, but Kakashi stared at her with a hint of suspicion but chose not to voice it. Yeah, I think our young friend would like nothing better. Kakashi noticed Tsubasa's muscles twitch, ready to react. I hope others are having better luck, Inoichi prayed. Interrogation cell. Marino Ibiki was expecting a hell lot of tasks at hand but was disappointed when only 20 arrests had been made. His consolation that more were coming, but 20 would be enough to gather info and satisfy his appetite. For now, he hummed a tune as the TNI department was filled with the background music of prisoners screaming and pleading for mercy as the interrogators played punching bag with them. His guest, a young man in embroidered silk tunic, on the other hand, would rather be elsewhere. If it isn't Muramasa Higurashi, the greatest blacksmith and weapon trader of Hai no Kuni. It's a great pleasure, and it would be an even greater pleasure to use goods Konoha purchased from you on you. Look, sir, I am just a simple blacksmith. I have not done anything wrong. Whatever Higurashi wished to say got stuck in his throat as Ibiki unsheathed his tanto and struck it between his legs and into the chair a few centimeters away from his precious. I swear I didn't do anything on purpose. They forced me. They threatened me and my family. Ibiki held the blacksmith's shoulders tightly. Who threatened you? Root. Root. You can stop screaming. Danzo-sama came to me personally with an offer to supply him weapons in exchange for cash and his services. I refused as I didn't want trouble with Konoha. When he insisted, I warned him that I would inform Hokage-sama, but then he threatened to kill me and my wife and take my sons as his soldiers. Are you sure you were threatened and not seduced by your old friend and the prophet? It's true that when Root was still legal, I was its main weapon supplier, and when Root disbanded, my business was hit poorly, but not enough to go against Konoha. I did what I did only for my family. And you didn't inform us because? Surely, by now you must have realized that Danzo-sama's strength. He has contacts and spies everywhere. I would have been killed even before reaching Konoha, and you wouldn't be able to find my corpse. Well, now that you're in Konoha, how about you tell us about these spies and contacts you mentioned? I don't know. Ibiki plucked the tanto and struck it closer to the blacksmith's precious. It's true. It's true. Then how did you supply weapons? Ibiki asked, his blade now touching his victim's point of great inconvenience. I was given dates. Dates to prepare weapons. At night someone would steal the weapons, leaving a check and the next order. I swear that's all I know. That's all I know. Ibiki plucked the blade and sheathed it to the comfort of the squirming man. Sir. Aoba reporting. A young shinobi with spiky black hair and goggles entered. Report. We've got nothing, the young man reported bravely, as Ibiki narrowed his eyes, drilling holes into his subordinate, but remained calm. Explain. Aoba sighed in relief before reporting. Most of them confessed to providing Danzo money and weapons. In return, Danzo did some dirty work for them. But they claim they really don't know about Danzo's whereabouts or his hideouts. Most? Some of them say they had no part in any of Danzo's schemes. One of them even said that this is all a conspiracy by Hokage-sama to save his throne. Hiro made sure that guy won't be sitting on any throne. What did the hothead do? Hiro actually baked his ass with the grand fireball. The old man's critical but alive. Did they tell you about the locations? Where they supplied their money and weapons? Through whom did they supply? Anything as such? Negative, they claim they were given dates to prepare supplies. The supplies, which could be weapons, food, clothes, cash, etc., would be stolen on the date with something in return. What about the Root agents? Inoichi-senpai tried reading the brat's mind. The brat caused an emergency situation. The security around him has been tightened, but no one's gonna bother him for the time being. Especially not with his hothead mom around. A 12-year-old caused Anbu's trouble? Ibiki exclaimed with disbelief. And what about the other two? They're not as much trouble, but they are stubborn. All we got were their names. Let me see them. Aoba and Ibiki marched towards the cell where Tsubasa's comrades were placed, ignoring the sights of people bleeding, hanging, burning, pincushioned, and whatnot. Till he stopped at a cell where two men had their faces covered in bags filled. Ice cubes were being smashed into each other by a purple-haired woman in trench coat. The bags of ice were already stained in blood, but they couldn't even flinch as their arms were pinned to the chair. Anko-senpai, Aoba made Ibiki's presence known to Anko Midarashi. Ibiki motioned Anko to lift the ice bags. Anko complied, revealing two faces right from the nightmares. Their faces had been smashed so many times that they were painted completely red by blood, even the hair. One of them seemingly dislocated his eye, and they would both need surgery. They were beyond dazed, they probably didn't even remember where they were anymore. Sir, meet Jian in geometry. They're in no condition to give answers directly or to resist. Use the mind transfer or hypnosis, Ibiki ordered. We tried that but it didn't work, or rather it worked but they don't seem to remember. Don't remember? Ibiki repeated and Aoba nodded in confirmation. What's that supposed to mean? Sir, that means when Yamanaka-say used mind transfer and searched their minds for the location of the hideouts, he couldn't, and when Uchiha-yu hypnotized them and asked for the location, they answered that they didn't remember. If they don't remember, why are you still interrogating them? They're obviously using some trick. If they were, I doubt they're in any condition to physically or mentally use a trick as you put it, Ibiki rebutted. I have to report to Hokage-sama any time now. Tell Sei and you to try again. Aoba nodded. This will be an interesting report. Konoha North Gate. As per the Hokage's orders, each gate had a team of guards led by one jounin. Like at other gates, everyone that passed in and out were thoroughly checked. Everything was normal except the visitor that had just arrived, an old man with one eye and one arm. Surround him. The leader ordered, and all the guards surrounded him with blades drawn out. Shimura Danzo. I know, I am under arrest. Danzo surrendered with his good arm raised and a smirk, screaming he was up to something. Hokage's office. The Hokage frowned at the report, feeling great disappointment. Jiraiya had come just before Ibiki to discuss with Hiruzen if Jiraiya should leave and continue his espionage, or stand by, but had to wait as Ibiki's report held more priority. In other words, you weren't able to find Danzo or his hideouts, Hiruzen summarized. Sir, the supporters merely supplied weapons, money, etc. They have no clue about Root's whereabouts or any member. As for the Rootinines, Inoichi can't enter the kid's head and the other two seem to have forgotten their hideout. Ibiki justified their disability. Interesting? Hiruzen mused as if recalling something. Has this happened before? Ibiki asked. Yes, just a few years ago I had Inoichi-san dive into Danzo's head. Inoichi searched every nook and corner of Danzo's head but Danzo came out clean, Hiruzen recalled. It was as if Danzo forgot Root was still operational. Sasori of the Red Sand, Jiraiya's eyes lit up like bulb, waving his index finger. Sasori is known for creating sleeper cells. These sleeper cells are Sasori's spies who have their memories erased and infiltrate, or rather join forces of his target nations like regular shinobis till Sasori returns their memories. Even the spies don't know they are spies till Sasori reminds them, until then they have gathered a lot of info on their targets. It's also rumored that Sasori uses a complicated sealing technique for this method, while others believe this is done by hypnosis. You think Danzo is using something similar? Either that or Sasori joined Root, Jiraiya guessed. Ibiki, the head of TNI, felt a shiver down his spine. Would you be able to do anything about this? If it's a seal, I can. But I'll need a Yamanaka and a Hyuga or an Uchiha. But it'll take a lot of time. Well, hurry up then. Just then an Anbu barged in and reported, Sir! Report from North Gate. Danzo has surrendered. He is in our custody. Finally! Some good news. No, Jiraiya, Danzo is up to something. Of course. Konoha Barrier HQ. The barrier headquarters was located exactly at the center of the village. After the disappearance of Hinata Hyuga, the Sandaime Hokage ordered Uzumaki Kushina and Jiraiya the Toad Sage to create a sensory system around Konoha that could detect anyone entering or exiting Konoha. The sensory barrier was their answer, with major support from the Hyuga clan and a reluctant one from the Uchiha. The project took 3 years to be completed and another year for team selection before it was functional, and another 6 months before the team had enough recruits to function 24/7, with 2 shifts. Powered by a steam engine which converts energy to chakra, the barrier surrounded Konoha like a spherical energy field and could detect the chakra of anything that entered Konoha by land, air or water, and would shown as a ripple on the sphere representing the barrier, but the barrier could do more. When supplied with more energy, it could monitor movement of everything within the barrier. Other than that, the sphere could zoom into districts and streets of Konoha. The barrier in itself could not be seen by naked eyes or detected by radars or even by digitsus like Byakugan and Sharingan, or by any sensory ability thanks to the seals in use. However, the barrier could not project the actual visual. It could only project a schematic 3D model of Konoha with small green dots representing Konoha's shinobis, blue dots representing the civilians, and red dots representing intruders. As far as the general populace was concerned, the barrier could only detect people entering and exiting the barrier, only a select few knew its real ability. After all, no one likes people spying on them, especially their government. The barrier team was a small